GBS.
Naam, karibu mtazamaji wangu wa GBS TV mahali popote ulipo, nikiwa na wingi wa matumaini ya kwamba yu buheri wa afya. Tangu tuachane wiki iliyopita, narejea tena GBS TV ndio tuweze kuzungumzia swala nzima kuhusu uongozi na maendeleo. Ndani ya studio niko na wageni ambao wananisaidia kufanikisha mazungumzo haya. Lakini kwanza nichukue nafasi hii ni kukaribishe katika mpango mzima wa GBS TV Jumatatu, na kwanza ni kushukuru sababu ya kuwa mwaminifu wa kufuatilia vipindi vyetu kila siku. Hivi sasa naomba uniwie radhi, nimechelewesha mazungumzo yetu kwa dakika 8, ila tu wanasema afadhali kufika lakini usikose. Nishafika ndani ya GBS TV, na wakati tunazungumzia haya niko na wageni ambao wananisaidia kufanikisha mazungumzo haya. Ningetaka nianze from the far end. Ndani ya studio niko na Violin Ochola ambaye ni program officer kutoka shirika la TISA. Karibu my good friend, good morning.
Asante sana Kibe, good morning.
Good morning too.
Yes.
Allow me to say thank you for honoring our invite this morning.
Asante.
Thank you.
Karibu.
But at least say hi to Kenyans who are watching us from different parts of Kenya. Welcome,
Okay.
sir.
Good morning, Kenyans, and thank you so much for taking your time to listen to us. We are here to discuss good governance and also leadership, and we hope at the end of the day we'll have a lot to shape our country. Yes.
Thank you very much. Ndani ya studio pia niko na Mheshimiwa Maina Mutiga from all the way Kajiado County. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, too. My name is Maina Mutiga.
Yes.
I'm MC from Gaimunya in Ngatonga Division. We are here to discuss more things, more issues concerning our country, concerning governance and the leadership.
Na mwisho kabisa niko na Julie Matheka. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning, Kenyans. It's a delightful Monday morning, and we're here to discuss issues of good governance and leadership, and it's my pleasure to share this morning with you, and I hope to have a very fruitful engagement. Thank you very much for having us.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to say thank you to all for honoring my invite, but I would wish to start with my good friend Mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa,
Yes.
wakati tunazungumzia kuhusu uongozi bora, good governance.
Yes.
Na wewe umechaguliwa katika serikali ambayo watu wengi wanafini kana kwamba they are not well represented in terms of fostering development. So, wakati tunasikia watu wakisema kwamba hatujashuhudia uongozi ambao tulikuwa tunatarajia, nini nakuja kwa mawazo yako kama kiongozi?
Uongozi unaangaliwa na njia kadhaa. Uongozi, kitu ya kwanza, wewe ndio tegemeo wa area na wa nchi na ile ile unaongoza. Ya pili, wewe ndio hope ya kila mtu. Kwa mfano, ikiwa kuna shida, wewe ndio hope hiyo area, lazima upeane hope. Na kama nchi vile vile, kiongozi wa nchi ndio anaruhusiwa kupea wananchi hope na vile vile kuonyesha kuna kesho. So uongozi lazima ufikirie, na kiongozi yote kufikiria kuhusu leo, kesho na kesho ijayo. Lazima kiongozi yote ajiulize, kwa miaka 5 ijayo hii nchi itakuwa wapi? Hawa wanaoongoza watakuwa wapi? Kwa miaka 5 ijayo watakuwa kipata chakula bila shida? Kwa miaka 5 ijayo masomo watakuwa kusomesha bila shida? Kwa miaka 5 ijayo wale watoto wote wanaotoka shule kwa projection ya miaka 5 mpaka 10 wataenda wapi? Lazima ufikirie, na ili ufikirie lazima ujue utafanya aje ili uweze kupanua uchumi wa nchi na kutafuta njia ya kazi. Kwa mfano, ukiangalia nchi yetu saa hizi tunategemea nchi ya Tanzania na Uganda kwa upande ya vyakula. Na hiyo ni kazi, usisahau. Hiyo chakula inayovunwa Tanzania na Uganda kuja Kenya, inamaanisha kuna Mkenya ako hivyo bila kazi na ana uwezo wa kwenda kulima. Shida ni nini? Shida ili itafanywaje? Yule nayo kwa town akiongojea tu chakula na akiongojea kazi na hana kazi. Akienda shambani atakuwa busy kule kwa shamba, atakuwa akiweka pesa mfukoni na atakuwa akipeana chakula wapi? Kwa town. So sisi tumekuwa nchi, baada ya kuwa producer tumekuwa consumer. Tutafanya aje tuweze kutoka kwa kuwa consumer tuwe producer?
Thank you very much. So, Julie, as an advocate for good governance, we have 15 years since we promulgated the new constitution. What is your anticipation, maybe for the 15 years as an advocate since we got the new constitution, that provider that dictate for good governance? If you look at the 15 years, where are we, and where we are today? Was that you anticipated maybe 15 years ago?
Interesting question. When we gifted ourselves the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the aspiration of the people of Kenya was to ensure that leadership was actually well structured, well codified, and as such we have chapter 6 that actually speaks to leadership and good governance, the leadership of the people but also the leadership of the country. And then if you tie that in with our national values, who are we as a people? What do we ascribe for? We ascribe for integrity, good governance, transparency, openness, inclusivity of all cultures, inclusivity of all tribes, the right representation at all levels. We have made strides in certain spaces. I believe that we cannot say that all is lost.
Yes.
However, the strides as well have been met with difficulties. When we look at how, for example, you have constituted the judiciary of Kenya, a very open and transparent process in the recruitment of the first Chief Justice under the Constitution of Kenya. A very inclusive process, actually. It was well televised and became the first of its kind in the region. But then when you also look at other offices that were meant to breathe life into the Constitution, we still see that the Chapter 15 organizations, that is the commissions, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, the Commission on Administration of Justice, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. There are various critical offices that have still not lived up to the mandate that Kenyans have given them as per the Constitution. But you see, that is not in itself a doing of its own. There are certain offices that actually have the right mandate and have the right people within it, but have been frustrated time and time again from achieving what they're supposed to achieve for the people of Kenya. There have been structural problems that have actually faced them. For example, budget deficits, political appointees being given these offices and therefore being shackled in terms of how much they can actually do for the people. And Kenyans are actually crying out and asking, what are these public institutions supposed to do for us? What are these independent commissions supposed to do for us? Why aren't they doing what they're meant to do for the Kenyans? So on one side, we can see that there are strides to become the Kenya we hoped for, the Kenya we believe in under the Constitution of Kenya, but indeed there are systemic challenges that bedevil some of these institutions and some of these governance positions and leadership positions that we have. Going into the political arena a bit, looking at how Chapter 6 has actually been used to allow for certain people to run for office, we still have challenges there. I think if you throw a politician's name out there, someone will come up with a raft of scandals associated with them, which is a challenge. I think Kenyans also need to come to a meeting of minds where we look at who are the kind of people we want to represent us, who are the kind of people who we believe should be the custodians of these offices and represent us in various forums, because indeed there are very fantastic 50 million Kenyans who can actually rise up to the mantle, but do we ensure that they have the right support to get into these various offices? Do we also have the right political goodwill to ensure that people of good conscience, people of right governance frames are actually allowed to contest in these positions? We often see the same names regurgitated time and time again. And unfortunately, those same names also have challenges in regards to their ethics and integrity questions. So why is it that we keep on having certain leaders who do not really live up to the constitutional values taking up these offices? So yes, there are strides that are being made, but there are also challenges. So I would say that hopefully in the next 15 years, we can see how to unpack these challenges better to ensure that we have the right governance for our people.
Thank you, Julie. Sababu nimekuelewa vizuri, nikirudi kwako, you have, if I can summarize what you have said, is as if that we have a failed public institutions. So maybe nikikuja kwako tutatuambia, is it by design that those public institutions, they are not working? If you look the parliament, if you look the judiciary, there are a lot of gaps ambazo mwananchi anashindwa, kama vinyo nasema kwamba, why would we have leaders ambao maybe through the process of vetting, maybe by the institutions who are responsible, kutupatia kiongozi ambaye akona mawa. So where do we have such leaders? Maybe I want to go to Ochola, and Ochola also as an advocate for good governance. If I know you engage, your organization give you that platform to engage with common mwananchi, members of public there. You take awareness there. Maybe for the last 15 years, maybe for the time that you have been there, which is this gap, maybe you felt that the mwananchi mwenyewe anaweza kurecognize, isipokuwa ni hii, we could not be here today. So which are these gaps ambao mwananchi ana feel ziko pale?
Asante sana Kibe, and ningependa kuanza na the first gap naweza sema ni representation, because after every 5 years we go to the election with the hope that we are going to get adequate representation, but the moment our leaders get to the next level, something changes, and we keep on asking ourselves whether do we have a problem in that house of parliament?
Yes.
And this is the question that we come across each and every time we engage the people. So people still feel that we have not, as per the constitution, the representation that we are supposed to get is still not there. And also the challenge is the understanding of the constitution. And based on our engagement with the people, we realize that not many Kenyans understand the constitution, and particularly the power of Article 1. It is something that we always assume that when we say the power belongs to the people, we assume that everyone understands what that provision means. And we have come to realize that if you go somewhere right now, you go to a market and ask how many people know what Article 1 means, or what Article 1 of the Constitution states, you will be surprised that less than half of the population even know just what Article 1 of the Constitution is. The second one is the leadership. Because again, as Masita said, is that if you look Chapter 6 and Article 10 of the Constitution, it provides everything that we need. The foundation, the parameters that we need to start with if we are to take our country to the next level. But the way that you asked whether it is by design or it is by choice, you realize that we do not want to play along with the parameters that have been set when it comes to the provision of the services, and also ensuring that you serve the people, you don't serve yourself. And right now, when you look at, if you compare this regime and the previous regime, and even the previous ones, you realize that there's a certain trend. What changes is how they do it. And I can talk of, look at in terms of the previous regime, we had significant challenge around procurement as one of the challenges.
Yes.
And right now, what we are having with this, the current regime, is how they have twisted the procurement aspect to become business proxies. So when you look at that kind of leadership, you realize that there are certain individuals that are just somewhere waiting to benefit from the government at the expense of many Kenyans. And this is where now the challenge comes in. Because when you wait each and every day, you wake up, you realize that when majority of people, of Kenyans, are saying they are struggling with the economy, there are certain group of people who are feeling good. They wake up every day, you see their life changes. But when you look at ordinary Kenyans, we are still there. You start with the education sector, we start with health sector. You ask yourself, why would we have a 150-day strike in Kiambu, for instance, health strike, and when you know very well that there's something that the government can do, but they will take the headline position each and every day. You come to the education sector, the confusion around CBC, the confusion around education funding model, and the confusion around the housing levy. So all these require leadership. But when the leadership is not there, it becomes difficult for people to get the services. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The good thing is that the issues that you have raised you as an advocate, in our midst we have an oversight body who is mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa umesikia vinye, wacha niseme mashirika ya kijamii yamesema, because wamesema kwa niaba ya other advocates. Wamesema poor governance wakati mwingine inaletwa na poor leadership. Kama mwakilishi wadi ni jukumu lako kuhakikisha kwamba umeweza hold the governor into account.
Yes.
Is your responsibility to make your kwamba the Kajiado County, the people of Kajiado County access government services kwa njia ambayo inafaa. So do you agree with what without mentioning name, where some of them they have said poor leadership, even the character of the caliber of the people who have been elected? So
ukiangalia kama vile Ochola amesema kwa serikali,
first of all, do you agree ya kwamba the problem that we are having,
yes,
is a representation?
Of course there is a big issue there. Lakini ukiangalia from the three government kuanzia Kibaki, Uhuru na saizi, unaweza ona utofauti wa uongozi vile ulivyo. Kibaki alikuwa kiongozi aliyekuwa na maono na aliyekuwa beba nchi na uzito sana, such that alipoingia aliweza kuleta kila kitu, akaenda kwa uwazi, na kwa mabarabara zikaanza kujengwa, shule zikaanza kujengwa, masomo ya bure, kila kitu, yani tukaona uongozi.
Yes.
Kutoka Kibaki tukakuja Uhuru. Uhuru naye akaenda na njia yake vile vile, na tukaona na shida, tukaje kutofautisha Kibaki, Uhuru na saizi the current president. So unapoangalia unaangalia unakuta sana hawa viongozi ni kama wanatupwa na advisors, ama ni kama advisors wao wengi wana advise na njia sio nzuri. Juu ukiangalia uongozi yote kuna tofauti mkubwa sana. Na uongozi wa kwanza uliokuwa wa Kibaki nisema kwa hizo uongozi tatu, ulikuwa naona askari akipatwa na jambo la amehongwa na shilingi 50, ilikuwa shida, wananchi wana demonstrate sijui nini, anafukuzwa. Lakini saa hizi
Yes.
unapata mtu hakuwa pahali, hakuwa na jambo, tunapima pesa na ratiri. Inamaanisha aje? Kuna shida. Kuna shida. Unazaje pima pesa na ratiri na kuna mwingine analala njaa?
Na unachukuliwa video kipi?
Na unachukuliwa video, hiyo ni raha. Yes. Inamaanisha ya kwanza tumekosa utu ndani yetu. Juu unapofanya hivyo na wengine wanalala njaa,
yes,
hata utu umekosa. Ile ingine umekosa njia ya kuzalisha. Juu ile pesa hata kama umepata pahali, lazima uzalishe ili ajiri watu. Kwa hivyo hauna mpango wowote. Mpango wako ni ile kitu unachokipata, ukiexpose uenshane kwamba uko nayo, wengine wakufe na njaa, wengine walale na njaa, hauna shida.
Yes.
Na hiyo ndio shida ya uongozi mara nyingi. Hapo ndio uongozi huletea shida. Kiongozi yote lazima afahamu anapochukua uongozi, yeye ndio macho ya area yake na nchi yake na pale kulingana na uongozi pale alipo. So unapoanza kuongoza lazima ujiulize, wale watu unaoongoza wako aje? Wamelala njaa? Kama wajalala njaa tutafanya aje? Ikiwa wewe ni kiongozi lazima ufikirie kabisa na ujiulize tutazalisha aje ili watu wapata makazi. So tuna shida aina nyingi sana. Nilisikia wakili hapa akisema kuhusu chapter 6. Chapter 6 inafanya kazi, lakini hebu angalia wengi wote hata kwa kotini. Kwa mfano kuna governor aliwachiliwa last week. Anakosa hata ni mweupe kama pamba na alikuwa ameshikwa na corruption. Niulize, aliyemwachilia ni nani? Si mwanasiasa. Si mwanasiasa.
Yes.
Ni mwanasheria. Inamaanisha aje? Hebu tuangalie kona zote, tujue tutarekebisha hii nchi yetu. Hakuna mwingine atakayejenga, ni sisi. Kuanzia mwanasheria, mwanabiashara, viongozi, wanasiasa na wananchi wa kawaida. Tukishikana tufahamu hii nchi hakuna ingine, hatuna spare part ya Kenya na hakuna ingine. Ukienda Tanzania utaitwa mgeni, utapigwa. Na kwa hivyo ile uchumi nao, ile faida wa Tanzania wanayopata hauna ruhusa kuipata. Lakini ukija Kenya kila kitu ni free. Ukija mkiwa Mtanzania anza biashara yako pale, unaanza uza nini, sijui fanya nini, ukiwa Mkongo hivyo hivyo ni sawa. Lakini wewe ukiwa Mkenya, ukiwa Tanzania uende Kongo, uende kule kwingine, utaangaliwa. Lakini niko hapa kwa chapter 6. Chapter 6 hii wakili anasema iko na ni sana kufuatwa, lakini ukichunguza enda kwa hata kwa mawaziri kuanzia mwanzo mpaka mwisho, hakuna ule hana lawama.
Okay, thank you. Nimeona ujumbe wako Jogo wa Transport unasema kwamba niache kuuliza maswali yangu, niulize maswali yenu. Basi sitauliza, na nasema hiki kile ni yenu wananchi. Sitauliza swali langu tena, nafungua line zangu za SMS. Ukurasa wangu tafuta Ivan Kibe, bonyeza like. Ukurasa wetu wa GBS TV Africa, ukimbia pale Facebook GBS TV Africa, Twitter, YouTube, tuko live pale. Uliza swali lako pale. Pia unaweza kutumia namba yetu, unaweza kututumia kwa 21144. Nirudie tena, unaweza kututumia ujumbe wako kwa 21144. Jogo, nimekusikia na nikaambiwa niulize, although sijui kana kwamba nikidiktitiwa nisiulize maswali yangu. Sasa sijui kama nitakuwa na flow, sababu kuna mtu ameniambia niulize Ochola. So nitachukua maswali yenu, lakini nitayauliza at my own convenient time. Sababu nimeambia niulize Ochola, nimuulize. Umesema ya kwamba shida ambayo tuko nao ni kwamba Wakenya wengi hawajui katiba. Hawaelewi katiba, na ukakuta article 1 of Kenyan Constitution. Na nimeona SMS imesema that but wale wachache ambao wanajua hiyo sheria 2024 kwenda kuitekeleza waliwawa. So what do you say about that? Utajiteteaje kuhusu hiyo? Thank you. Respond to that.
I think if you look at how our economy is and also our society, and one of the constitution, the provisions that is very clear is access to information. We cannot act collectively when you don't have that information. And it starts when we know the information. So if many Kenyans can be able to start by just understanding Article 1 of the Constitution, then perhaps the few that get out of the house to join the streets in 2024, we could join, the majority could join them. And of course, yes, some were dead, some were killed. And that's where now the leadership comes in, because again, the constitutions allow us to peacefully protest. If you look at most of the people who went out, in fact, in the last 10 or so years, if you do a critical analysis, you will realize that usually when people get out on the streets, they are usually peaceful until the police shows up, started dispersing them. And that's when now the confusion comes in. And again, we can't also run away from the fact that sometimes among ourselves, there are those bad people, which again, we can't run away from. But my response to the person who asked that question is that let's try as much as we can to do much civic education so that many Kenyans can know what this is, so that when we are going to the election, when we elect people, we also know that we have a right to recall them when we feel they are not working, so that we don't just wake up and say you must go. Everything, people must go within the constitution so that we know what happens next.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to touch about the leadership and governance. Kidogo tu katika vigezo viwili ambavyo mheshimiwa ameweza kutaja hapa hivi. Ningetaka tuzungumzie kuhusu health and education. And Julie, we talk about the separation of power. And if you look nianze na health, sababu hiyo ndio late imekuwa ikisumbua sana watu hapa kaunti ya Kiambu, na nikaona watu mpaka wakisema kwamba the governor should be impeached. And maybe the question that I will ask, if you look at the 2010 constitution, we talk about the separation of power. Those services that are offered by the county government, if you look since 2010, health has been imekuwa ikitapatapa. Yani kumekuwa county hazijaweza kuimplement health vizuri. Where is the problem? Do you feel that sekta kama ya afya ilikuwa inafaa kugatuliwa? Tulikuwa tayari maybe kugatua afya. Ukiangalia sector education, if you look maybe shule za chekechea ambazo ziko chini ya serikali za county, still there is a lot of gap. Nikiangalia hiyo kwa katiba inapendekeza at least in every public primary school at least kuwe na ECD. But how many have attained that 15 years down the line? Karibu, Julie.
Okay. Allow me to start with your previous question that you mentioned to me around why we have failed institutions. When you think about the reason as to why we have failed institutions, I think the thing that comes to my mind is systemic weakening of mandates. There are institutions that have been systemically weakened by chipping away at their mandates, by chipping away at the people who go into these organizations, by also just ensuring that they're structurally weakened, by crippling their resources, by ensuring that they don't have that framework to operate in. Another thing that is important is also political patronage. By having their very own appointees given those offices, you have commissioners who have been appointed to independent commissions who you know are politically aligned to particular factions and as such cannot discharge their mandate in a fair, free and credible way without facing repercussions from the big house on the hill. There's also the issue of competence, really qualifications. Are those people fit to serve in the offices that they are given? And you see it playing out when you then have them articulate certain positions, even lobbying for government to assent to certain promises that have been given in the international fora, such as ascending to international treaty and obligations. They do not have the right resources, and as such it falls then on the secretariats to do a lot of the heavy lifting. But there's the overarching thing, which is impunity and corruption, and this is going to be tied into now the question around health. I think the important thing that one must appreciate is that this constitution, again, was a birth of a lot of processes. We sat, deliberated, articulated, and told ourselves that this is how we want to work. And in that frame of mind, we then devolved certain services, including health. The health service is devolved for a particular reason. There are certain counties in this country that did not have the requisite health facilities to serve their people. And as such, devolution came in, particularly on the issue of health, to ensure that health is available and accessible to all people at all levels in all counties across the country. We see now that there is a slight challenge in terms of devolution because the national government still wants to hold the resources that are meant to trickle down into the counties. So that is the first challenge, that we have the issue of lack of adequate resources flowing into the counties. But then you also have county governments that do not want to live up to the mandate on health in the right way. The focus should not be on structures and buildings and hospitals consistently. It should also be on ensuring that the hospitals are fit for purpose. Do you have the right medicines? Because we see that people have been building hospitals, and it has been a check mark for a lot of the counties. You go to a place and they show you, this is the level 5 hospital that we have built, this is the level 4 hospital that you have built. Fantastic. Does it have medicine? Does it have nurses? Does it have doctors? And we see now that is where the challenge is. How do you work together as national and county governments to ensure that both mandates align? The deployment of doctors and practitioners is technically under the national government, but they're supposed to serve the county governments. And that is why you see that when there's a national strike, there's a national strike. But then there are other counties that are actually striking because the services that are being rendered at the county are not fit for service. Doctors cannot come into a county and expect to deliver, yet they don't have the requisite equipment, they don't have the medicines, they don't have the beds, they don't have the capacity. So the county government at that point in time is held liable because they're not providing the right environment for these professionals to deliver on their mandates. So what I would say is I think we need to go back, particularly for the health docket. ICJ, we developed, I think, 4 publications relating to health. We have done a compendium on health laws that affect our country. We have done an analysis on various cases that have come affecting the health sphere, really. We have also done an analysis on the new framework, which is the social health care framework that has been put in by the government. And one thing we can consistently say is that we are not yet there. There is still a hue and cry from the people that they are not getting the right services. And I think that it's right time for the various people, and we even have now PSs who have really worked on county. The current PS for medical services, I believe, was the head of the Nairobi County Health Administration under the framework that was established after Mike Sonko left. he knows the ails of each and every county's
Yes.
administration. And I think it's time that he actually starts engaging people in regards to what is the challenge at the health services, because health is an important right, because without health you will die.
Sure.
So it's one of those rights that you really can't chip away at. And it's an Article 43 right, meaning every person has the right access to healthcare at any time, emergency healthcare. Right now we are looking at health as a basic service, health in terms of you go to the hospital, but we've not even tackled the issue of emergency healthcare services. How many people can actually call a particular number and get an ambulance taken to pick you, take you to a hospital, and you will be admitted and emergency services given without you having to now start looking for which hospital takes this particular service, SHA shift, which hospital is closest to me, which hospital has the right theater equipment. We are yet to really chip away at the big issue that is the health and accessibility question. And I do believe that once we handle this, then it will also unlock other questions. Article 43 also speaks to the issue of water, sanitation, and safety. I think we have not even started there yet. But I think that the consistent conversation around health is important. I empathize with the doctors and medical practitioners who unfortunately have to give services when they are not in a place to give services in the right way that they are trained. But I think there is need for consistent conversations. And it's unfortunate that we keep on having strikes because there are certain CBAs that have been put in place that have not been honored by the same government, tying back again to the question of governance and leadership. Why would you take up a docket that you know has a CBA and you are not deliberate about honoring the CBA? Resources should follow function, whereby the first negotiation for every particular institution should be, these are our commitments to our professionals, to our institutions, to our infrastructure. How do we honor this? And if there is a budget deficit, bring everyone to the table and have a conversation so that you can say that indeed we cannot honor the CBA as per structured in the commitment, but this is our way to now get to where we ought to be. So that we are not in an antagonistic relationship between health providers and county governments or national government at every single time. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, the person who suffers the most is the Kenyan.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nikicheka najibu kuasimu SMS zenu na thank you very much Julie. I like when ningetaka nimlete mheshimiwa because health is a devolved mheshimiwa. So it's a responsibility of county government to make sure that huyu mwananchi, maybe unless from level 1 to 3, maybe from level 5 kule, hizo ziko maybe at a national level. But most of the time mwananchi anahitaji hizi hospitali ziko pale. Maybe I would wish to put a question to you. Ukiangalia kama anavyosema ya kwamba, and it is true, most of the time what we see is government going to launch a structure, yani ameweka a building. But now Julia ameuliza, apart from putting the structure, umejenga hospitali ambayo maybe imetumia 20 million ya mwananchi. Anauliza, je, kuna daktari pale? Kuna specialized wa kutosha? Tunawalipa mishahara ya kutosha? Na maybe tungetaka kujua from where you come from. Now we take this discussion pale kwa mwananchi wako wa pale zaidi. Nikikuja kwako, una hospitali za kutosha katika
niko na mbili, kwa wadi yangu niko na mbili na ni hospitali nzuri.
Na population iko na population yake ni ngapi?
My ward is 40,000 voters. Una ukihesabu 40,000 voters inamaanisha is about 60,000 population ya hiyo area. And that means we need more facility ya hospitali, lakini as we are talking we have two na inasaidia watu wetu zaidi. Kuna moja inaitwa Ng'athronga Health Center, na there is another inaitwa Ngaimlonya Dispensary or Health Center. Na hiyo Ng'athronga is like a referral, is level 4 and is too big. Ina madaktari wa kutosha, ina nurses wa kutosha. Nilienda last month, nienda kuangalia, nikakuta na madawa nyingi ya kutosha. Hii akataka is a new dispensary or other health center. Nilienda 2 weeks ago, ndio imemaliziwa inafanywa kazi chini, juu ndio inataka kuanzishwa kufunguliwa, lakini haijamalizika kabisa, lakini ina operate. Nikaona iko na vitanda za kama 10 za wagonjwa, lakini hawajaanza kulala isipokuwa iko ready. Nilipata siku hiyo kulikuwa na mama alikuwa yapata watoto kwa hiyo hospitali. Na ikuangalia nikaona iko na iko na madaktari na iko na dawa za kutosha. In fact, ninapoangalia nimeona imepunguza shida kidogo. Juu wengi walikuwa naenda hospitali za private. Although hatuwezi toa kabisa hospitali za private sababu zinasaidia zaidi. Ukichanganya zote unakuta kwa lese Kajiado as a county kwa upande ya health centers na hospitali iko mbele, imejaribu. You can't compare that one with Kiambu sababu Kiambu if at all they are still striking na kule bado wanaendelea kazi, so ni afadhali. Nataka kumaanisha aje? Kila boma, kila county ni kama boma na ina uongozi wake. Na uongozi wa boma ukiharibika, hiyo boma yote iulia. Ukiwa mzuri, hiyo boma yote ufurahia. So kwetu kuna hiyo jambo ya kazi inafanyika ya hospitali na kila kona una siku hizi si vile ilikuwa mbeleni. Kwa hivyo kuna jambo inafanya hata kama kuna kasoro kidogo lakini inaendelea vizuri.
Maybe naweza nikauliza swali nikisalia kwako.
Ndio.
At account level tuko na account gapi ambazo ni za referral at account Kajiado?
Referral hospitals.
Yes.
Tuna Ngong Health Center ni kubwa level 4. Tuko na I think level 5. Tuko na Ongatarongai Health Center. Tuko na Kajiado. Tuko na Loitokto ni 4. Referral ni 4.
Okay. So thank you.
Zile najua lakini tuko na nyingi.
Allow me to bring Wachola on the same. Wachola, wakati mnaenda pale kwa public engagement, if you go to create awareness about the how health should be administered, the administration of the health services kwa mwananchi mwenyewe, ukienda pale mashinani na kuambiaje kuhusu sekta ya afya. Alafu nikikuja kwako nimeona kuna swali limeulizwa Julie na somebody anaitwa Juliet. Majina kwa karibu kufanana. Anauliza kuhusu the funding. If you look the county government, all of them 47 receives only 15% of total allocation versus the services ambazo wanafaa kuoffer. You see, out of maybe 16 government services, 14 are devolved. Maybe only 2 ambazo zimebaki kwa national government, which is education and security. The rest services are being devolved. So anauliza, according to that sharing from between the national government and the county government, you find that the national government inabaki na 85%, 15% ndio inaenda kwa county government. Does the fund match the services? Karibu Wachola.
Asante sana. I think one thing we need to be keen on is acknowledging what Julie said earlier, is that we still have challenges when it comes to the health sector and access to health. And I'm saying this because over the years we've seen instances where you're just one disease away from poverty, and especially if you have cancer. It is one of the saddest part of our life today, that you can see someone doing well. And the moment they become sick, everything, all your assets, all the things that you have built and you had planned that you will go into retirement or you'll take your children to good schools, the moment you get sick, everything disappears. So it tells you that people still feel that when it comes to health, it has not gotten to the level where we wanted it to be. And this is something that we must continue to advocate, so that as per the revolution, we ensure that all the services, because now look at it this way, every year we go to the budget process. We allocate funds. When it comes to budgeting, you realize that significant portion remains with the national government.
Yes.
Yet, most of the care work is at the county level. So how do we ensure that we support counties? And that's what also Julie also mentioned in terms of coordination. As long as we do not have that high-level coordination, where we know how do we ensure that money follow functions or resources follow functions,
yes,
then we are going to still have these challenges, and I don't think we are going to end anytime soon. But perhaps my position is that we need to have that clarity and the role, because every time there is the doctor strike or there's health strike, you will see county leadership running back to the national government for direction, for leadership. And this is something that they are yet to appreciate, that health is a devolved function. So if health is a devolved function, it means that the mandate starts with the county government. They have the responsibility to ensure that even if it's not at level 4 or level 5, how do we ensure that those community health centers work for the people who may not be able to go to the level 4, level 5 hospitals? Once we start at that level, then it will give that level of ownership and let people understand that access to health indeed is a right. Because as at now, many Kenyans still feel that health, in as much as it is a right, they do not enjoy it. So how do we enjoy it is ensuring that the community level services become the top priority, because that is the first point of entry if something happens at the community level. And remember, there are instances where in areas where you have to walk many kilometers. So imagine if, sorry to say, there's a lady who is pregnant, is supposed to give birth, and then something happens. What does that tell you? It means that for her to get to the hospital will be a challenge. And even now, we still have instances where delivery happens on the floor, which will not be the case as of today. So when we engage with people, people say that we need to have that level of coordination at the health center, at the health sector, so that the national government can provide that policy framework and the leadership that supports the counties to ensure that counties also take their mandate and ensuring that we have a functioning health facility. And most importantly is understanding the collective bargain agreement, the CBA. Because if every time we go to an election, we bring in new people who, instead of reading and understanding where did this CBA come from, what informed its decision, and then you start rubbishing everything that you found there. So I think that misunderstanding is also there, and it's also something that we need to work on as people. And importantly is respecting the constitution and respecting the agreement. If, for instance, Mheshimiwa here promises to make the health sector work, and the moment they get to leadership, things change, I think that should not be a good principle when it comes to service delivery. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have read the SMS ambayo inakuhusu kutoka kwa Simon Mwema. Anasema kwamba the 15% inaenda kwa county government, where national government inabaki na 85%, where haina majukumu mengi. So anauliza whose failure ni wakilishi wadi wameshindwa kwenda kujitishia pesa yao, wasema kwamba tupatie ni pesa iandamane na majukumu, ama ni Senate, sababu ana reason ya kwamba it's a responsibility of the Senate to protect the devolution and the county government. So in between the Senate ambao ni oversight body ya county, nani nafaa kucomplain sana pesa ziteremuke kwa county?
You look at it this way, the Senate are supposed to, at the national level, sorry, at the national level, you see the Senate has a responsibility to ensure that whatever happens at the county links with the national government in terms of representation.
Yes.
And then we have MCAs who are also the representative of the people at the grassroots level. And what we have is where you elect people who do not understand the dynamics around this relationship. We have people, when they get to power, instead of doing their role, the oversight representation, they turn something. The opportunity they see is how do I amass wealth and be able to retain my position. And that's why you end up having people who don't even understand their roles and responsibility within the two, not only at the MCA level and the Senate, but even at the parliament. Because at the end of the day, you will realize that constituencies are not developed are not based at the national level. They are based within counties. So in as much as you will realize that your responsibility is to oversight executive, you still have a role at the county level, because that's where your constituency is. And when you cannot do your work well, it means who is suffering? It is the people at the constituency level. So we need to understand these dynamics and be able to elect people who understand how the functions of the government need to operate, and particularly the devolved function. And as long as we elect people who do not understand these dynamics, we are going to have these challenges. Yes.
Yeah, welcome Julie. I know nilikuwa ni maswali mawili. You can use maybe 3 to 4 minutes on the same.
I think the question by Juliet in regards to whether resources follow functions is a very pertinent question. And I think my colleague Ochola has actually answered quite sufficiently that the biggest challenge comes in the coordination aspect. whereby you have members of parliament who do not protect the constitution in the right way in regards to protecting the devolution aspect of the constitution. If you look at the devolution chapter of the constitution, and in particular Article 187, Article 189, and Article 190 of the constitution, it speaks to the mandate of supporting the county governments and how Parliament has a role in supporting the county governments in terms of achieving the mandate that they've been given in terms of what has been devolved to the counties. As such, it should therefore be the priority of Parliament when it sits to look at its budget in regards to what are the health considerations of each county vis-a-vis the allocations given to each county. Because at the end of the day, the budget making process is still vested within Parliament. It will be developed, the initial draft will be developed by the Ministry of Treasury, Ministry of Finance, and then it will be taken to Parliament for consideration and conversation and debate, and then that is what will now trickle down into the various departments or portfolios or mandates. And you see that time and time again, the conversation around counties has been very emotive. We actually saw in one particular parliament house sitting until midnight because of the question of revenue allocation and resource allocation. Why? Because it's very emotive. It touches on your various counties, one, but also it touches on the resource sharing mandate. We have also struggled with the conversation around members of parliament having the CDF fund, which they have protected very vehemently, contrary to the Supreme Court decision on Katiba, by Katiba Institute around whether or not CDF should be constitutional. We have seen them going back to the drawing board in regards to creating new CDF laws that enshrine the CDF within members of parliament. And that also goes into the question around how do we separate interests. As a member of parliament, oversight, accountability, legislation, implementation, how do you then just focus on that core function and ensure that you protect the very tenets of the constitution, including ensuring that the counties are adequately resourced? Because we find that this particular debate has been there for so long. The Senate has really tried. I believe that the Senate has pushed adequately for resources to trickle down to the counties, but they also get stumbling blocks, which is, of course, the question that we do not have adequate resources to go to the counties. But I think this is something that should be worked on. Progressively, we should be able to grow the cake for the counties more. Because again, the services are at the counties. But that being said, in terms of the growth of the resources to the counties, how are we auditing what the counties have gotten and how they have delivered against what they have gotten? We see consistent time and time again conversations on corruption and impunity affecting the health sector at the counties. So even with the little allocation that is given to the counties, there is still corruption with the resources there. And it takes a lot of work, really, to document the various infractions that are happening with the resources. It takes a lot of effort. And sometimes, I mean, corruption is very sophisticated in its very nature. We often do not get it right in terms of also finding out how the pockets of corruption operate so that we can be able to at least push back on various attempts to claw back on the rights that people should have. So Kenyans should be very vigilant. One thing that I have seen in some areas in the country is Kenyans being very involved in the budget making processes of their counties and in the service delivery of their counties. Kenyans are not getting involved in what exactly are you supposed to do for us? And have you done it? What is the challenge? And documenting these issues, because yes, money will come, money could come, but is the money being used for the right things?
That's a very good question kwa mwananchi. So now, ningetaka mwelekezi wangu you bear with me ya kwamba I may not be able to continue with the issues of health, but na set siku nyingine ambayo itakuwa ni siku ya health pekee, tuizungumze kwa undani. Na hata ikiwezekana, mheshimiwa, I would wish to come and do this program hapo kwa mwananchi, hapo nje, hapo mashinani. Sijui kama Julie na my good friend Wajora watapatikana. So that we can also have the voice of the people venye wana feel on health and other issues. Allow me to touch on education. Na kabla tuweze kusikia ama kuzungumzia swala la education, ningetaka mtazamaji wangu nikukumbusha kwamba ukitaka kuzungumza na mimi, kimbia katika ukurasa wangu wa Facebook Ivan Kibe, bonyeza like. Tafuta Ivan Kibe page, pia ukurasa wangu unafanya kazi. GBS TV Africa tuko live pale YouTube na kila mahali unaweza kufuatilia mazungumzo haya tuma swali lako, tuma your feeling, send your contribution. I may not be able to read all your SMS, but nitajaribu kusample zenye ambazo zinaandamana na mazungumzo yetu asubuhi ya leo. Pia unaweza kututumia SMS yako kwa 21144 21144. Ukituma SMS yako pale nitakuwa na jibu swali, nitakuwa nasoma SMS yako. Nataka tuweze kuangalia kigezo cha elimu, na kabla tuweze kuzungumzia hili swala, ningetaka tumsikize seneta wa Kisii Richard Onyoka. Mwelekezi wangu, kama uko tayari, nipatie sauti ya Richard Onyoka.
President William Ruto, wewe pesa ya capitation haupeleki kwa shule. Number 2, ukiona wakulima wa chai saa hii bonus inakuja shilingi 10. Ukiangalia walimu wa JSS ambao uliandika 2 years ago, sasa unawaambia tena waongoje miaka ingine 2 ndio watakuwa permanent and pensionable. Ukiangalia marafiki zako ndio wanaiba pesa ya serikali kama ni njugu wanauza. Wale watu wako umetuma hapa kuja kufanya kampeni ya UMCA wanaendesha Eurocopter, zimefika 7 nasikia. Helikopta moja kukomboa kwa siku ni shilingi 1,100,000. Times 7, that is 7 million. Times 30 days, that's 210 million. Aye, wami ndo kibono William. Ngeka hokora. Tumeelewana? Si ati tunakuchukia Mheshimiwa Rais, hatukuchukii. Ni vile tu hii kazi uliyopewa kama rais, the job is too heavy for you. You are not able to manage this job. And what we are saying, we have a candidate. Tumechoka na kuiba rasilimali za serikali. We want a country that is peaceful, a country that doesn't have thieves in governance. We want a country that protects.
Asante ya Richard Onyoka. Now, Mheshimiwa, I would wish to borrow words from Julie. Alisema hapo awali ya kwamba sometimes government institutions, they are designed to fail because of lack of goodwill, either political goodwill. Onyoka amesema ya kwamba na ni ukweli. That term katika shule zote za public, shule chache sana zimeweza kupokea their capitation. Anazungumzia kuhusu capitation. And the reason ambayo mwananchi amepatiwa pale ni kwamba the Ministry of Education inajaribu kuangalia idadi ya shule vis-a-vis pesa ambazo wanatumwa. Wanasema ya kwamba kuna ghost school. So maybe ningetaka nianzie whether kuna ghost school ama hakuna. Is that a reason enough?
Hata kama kwetu
hakuna capitation kwa shule Mheshimiwa.
Hata kama kwetu hakuna ghost school, nafikiri tuliona kuna 50 million president walikuwa nasema itumwa kwa shule fulani, na ikasemekana hiyo shule hakuna. Na hiyo jambo ilikuwa kwa mitandao na ilikuwa hata kwa media. So hiyo inamaanisha kuna jambo kama hizo. Lakini ukiangalia hapo ndio mimi nauliza, hii mvua ilianza kunyeshea wapi? Ndio ukiangalia kuna wakati viongozi waliokuwa kwa wakati fulani walikuwa wanaangalia kila kona. Lakini sasa hizi unakuta ikiwa ni mabunge wengi hawana shughuli. Wote walinyamaza na wakasema kazi yote iendelee vile inaendelea, either bora tu ukienda kupinga kitu wako pale wanaitwa kando na mambo inaisha. Ukienda kama pande ya Senate ndio inazua kupigana pesa iteremke chini. Lakini Senate iko hapa kupigana. Sinio hiyo unakuta wakiongeleshwa wanafanya vile wataka. So kuna shida. Na shida hata si huko chini. 47 counties ziko na shida, lakini viongozi wa mashinani hawana uwezo wa kupiga Senate. Hawana uwezo wa kupiga mbunge. Ni mbunge atete akiwa pale juu. Isikike nationally ameteta kuhusu jambo fulani, kuhusu uongozi, kuhusu pesa. Kwa mfano, pesa ya capitation. Unakumbuka hata shule juzi wakiga funga, kuna wengine walikuwa nasema ni kama walifanya mtihani kimungu kibahati. Inamaanisha aje? Hiyo ni shida. So itahitaji viongozi watu wakae chini wajiulize tutafanya nini ili nchi isimame vizuri, iwache kuwa na kuyumba. Ukienda pale ya Senate, county zote zinapata 15%. Itafaa inabai kwa national government. Saa hizi kwa wakati huu haturuhusi kuwa hivyo, inaweza kuwa even 30%, lakini Senate wenyewe hawezi kaongea, hapana, wamenyamaza, wako starehe. bunge vile vile wako starehe. Sasa yule mtu ako pale chini ya MCA, akienda kuongea itasikika wapi? Ukiwa yule ako Nakuru aongee, atasikika pale, hatasikika. Lakini ukiwa in the National Assembly you have to be heard, na utasikika na itaendea. Ukiwa kwa Senate itaendea. Lakini ukiwa Kisumu, MC akiongea akiwa Kisumu haitasikika. Ule mwingine anaongea akiwa Kajiado itasikika. Shida imefail sababu ya national leaders.
Okay, thank you. Ochola, karibu. Umesikia vinye Onyonka. I would wish maybe to tell what you got from Onyonka, then utatuambia what you have captured from Onyonka, then you tell us. Mheshimiwa amesema ya kwamba the problem iko katika National Assembly. Amesema ya kwamba capitation haijatumwa, na kuna word moja nataka kubuy from Onyonka. Amesema ya kwamba that the president, this job is too big for you. Do you agree?
That one is not for me to determine, and I don't think I have the parameters to determine that, because it is not only the work of the president alone. It is work of the government, and the work of the government is the government of the day. From the community level, we have chiefs, to the national, and the president as the chief in command. And you can't, even the MCAs can't run away from this when things are not going well. Because we have seen instances where they are trying as much as they can to impeach governors when the governors are not doing, should I say the right thing or the way they want.
Interject kidogo, pia tuliona wakiitisha nao word fund. Sababu mbunge kuna na CDF nao wakiitisha nini word fund autonomy.
Yes, so you see they can't run away. So they can't run away from these challenges. But allow me to say that listening to Senator Onyonka, and you get to understand that for any productive nations, there are two human capital sectors that we have to take care of. That's education and health. If you cannot take care of these sectors, then you are going to have a problem, because number one, if for instance you are an employer and you have employees who work in every day when they are unwell, what happens? The level of productivity reduces. And that means you can't maintain in terms of competitiveness with your peers. So that's how important health is. When it comes to education, you cannot have employees who do not understand the dynamics and the changing work environment. So when education sector is struggling as it is today, then we have to speak as people. Yes. And let me start from the budget point of view. If you look at the education sector, it is one of the sectors that receive the highest budget allocation. I think if it's not number 2, should be number 1. I need to check that.
Yes.
And when they receive this amount, when you look at this amount wholesomely, you may think it is the biggest. But do you know that TSC takes almost 80% of the total budget? For instance, the current budget, I think we should be having around 680 billion, if I'm not wrong, around that, or around that to 700. And TSC usually takes 80% of this. Why? Because education is largely a service sector. And now, when you move from the budget allocation, you come to budget utilization. You will realize that when it comes to budget utilization, the recurrent expenditure is usually used to the fullest, if not 96% to 100%. But when it comes to development budget, they use it up to 50%, or 60%, or 80%. And they don't give it the priority that they give to the recurrent expenditure. So the priority to those in power is usually to make sure that either they have the proxies or everyone get the money, but they don't prioritize the development. Why do we have learners still learning under trees?
Yes.
And we look at the Auditor General report that we still have ghost schools, where the priority is to give money to ghost schools, when we can clearly see from the social audit that we do as people that we know school A, B, and C, they don't have classrooms, they don't have desks, the children don't have books. How do we ensure that we prioritize these institutions when it comes to budget making and allocation? And importantly is also the fact that the delay in disbursement. This is true, we can't run away from it. It has happened in terms of capitation. And we have seen instances where capitation have been reduced to the previous cap. And when you do this, and each and every day the population increases, When the population increases, it means that there are a lot of students who require government support. But when you wake up and reduces this, and now you move from ECD to basic education, and now you go to the higher learning, you create a level of confusion where people are not sure what happens next. When will the money come? And that's why you see, sometimes we argue that the reason why you close early in third term is because we are going for exams. But ideally, it's also because by third term, you realize most schools have not received what? The capitation. So it is a challenge that we need to continue working on as people.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I would wish also to nikirejea kwako, ningetaka nikirejea kwako sababu umezungumzia kuhusu budget. Nilikuwa naangalia the estimate budget ya 2025-2026 walikuwa wamepatiwa 701 billion. So na kuna swali nimekuwa nikijiuliza na ulizaga hili swali. So wakati mtoto ako pale shuleni na huwa najiuliza Julie, the Ministry of Education imetenga ama imepatiwa 71 billion. This 71 billion is za kuketa mahitaji ya mwanafunzi akiwa pale shuleni. Kumaanisha kwamba mwanafunzi akiwa shuleni anahitaji darasa, anahitaji chalk, anahitaji vitabu. Hizi zote zinafaa kugharamikiwa na the Ministry of Education. Mwalimu analipwa na TSC. Tutoke kwa hiyo budget, tukuje kwa CDF. Pia kwa na almost between 100 to 200 million pia za education. You come to county level, utakuta kwamba kuna pesa ambazo zinatengwa na serikali za county pia zinaenda kwa education. Tuende hata kwa president, kuna ile azijua nasemaga bursary ya president ambayo inapeanwa maybe through the office of the DCC. Hizo pesa zote, hizi fedha zingine mzazi huwa anaitishwa ni ya nini? So I think hilo ni lako. Julie.
I think
utakuja kujibu.
Okay.
Ni wakati wa Julie. So Julie, I would wish maybe to hear what you captured from Senator Onyonka, and then from apart from what you maybe tell us, President William Ruto committed that as a president, shida yote ambayo inasumbua sekta ya elimu na sekta zingine za serikali ni wastage of money, na akasema ya kwamba nitafunga mianya yote, nitafunga wastage of money, and then I will overtax Kenya so that we can live within our mean, do to manage the external borrowing. So has he achieved that? Karibu.
Thank you very much. I think what I got from Senator Onyonka is that there is a crisis in the education sector, and for any parent who has a child in school, then you appreciate the challenges that exist, particularly the lack of predictability in terms of government policy regarding education. We transitioned from 844 to this new model of CBC, and it has had challenges in its transition. I think last year, if not this year, the Higher Education Help Board was also transitioned in a way, whereby the help dispensation, how people used to get help in university, changed. A very fundamental shift.
Yes.
And that was even quashed by the High Court, and there were conversations around going back to the drawing board in terms of the Ministry of Education with the various universities, sitting down to understand what exactly the students need vis-a-vis what the government can provide. And what I'm trying to draw at is a government that is investing in the future has to think about the children of today, because that is the backbone of the nation. We are old, we will leave, but the children are the backbone of the nation. And we see that there are a lot of games being played in the education sector, which is very unfortunate, because these are vulnerable populations start there, because most of them are below 18. They're vulnerable. So if the system fails them, they will be failed fundamentally in terms of accessibility to job markets, not only in Kenya, but abroad. We pride ourselves as Kenyans as being very resourceful, very innovative, very empowered, and as such you can attract opportunities not only in our country, but across the world. And we have seen our talent actually being poached from this country to lead various institutions across the world. And on that note, I'd like to congratulate Professor Phoebe for ascending into the International Court of Justice, because that is a reflection of Kenya's education system. A proper born Kenyan who has ascended to one of the highest offices in the world of justice. But then if we're not careful, we will not have the likes of Professor Phoebe going to the ICJs. We will not have other dignitaries who we have appointed to various offices getting there because we are playing games with the education sector. Why is this important for us to talk about? It's because the population of our country is growing every so often. I think we have seen from the census, we have seen from the National Bureau of Statistics, we have seen from various data that people are increasing, which would also trigger another conversation around other resources that we are allocating to the to the education sector increasing, commensurate to the population.
Yes.
But then the other conversation that we should also be having is, are the policies that are there also in line with the growing needs of the Kenyans? My biggest concern actually is what I'm seeing in the universities, because higher education is very important. And we are seeing that universities, I don't know if they have resumed office. I saw University of Nairobi have resumed. So there is conversation that is happening in the background towards resumption of higher education. But we have seen that for, I think, close to a month, learning was paralyzed. Why?
Yes.
Because of the CBAs. So again, coming back from the conversation that we had on health, you find that governments do not want to honor agreements that they made, not under any duress or coercion, but engaged in with their own stakeholders, and government needs to honor obligations.
Yes.
Another thing that is very critical is, indeed, if we have an overpopulation of students, which I don't think is the case, then shouldn't we have a higher priority given to the education budget? Shouldn't we build more classrooms? Shouldn't we be building more schools? Shouldn't we be investing more in students?
Yes.
But also appreciating the economy of the day, whereby parents do not have the resources to be able to put, unfortunately, their children through school the same way that they did back in the day.
Yes.
I was a beneficiary of the free primary education, and I think my parents were paying very little. If you compare it to today,
Yes.
it was almost all taken care of. Why aren't we looking at what did that model entail, and where did we get it wrong? What is the fundamental shift
Yes.
that has now brought us to this place where we are now saying that we cannot afford this free primary anymore? What has changed? And can we then pool resources around that? Because education is critical. We are seeing a lot of international players coming in to support the education sector.
Yes.
Do we have transparency around the kind of investment that they are giving? Another big challenge.
Yes.
We have also seen that internationally there has been a big conversation around education. There's the Abidjan Declaration on Education, which came in 2019, which actually appreciated that there is a growing concern around governments to a large extent
Yes.
directing on its duty to provide education for its citizenry, and actually shepherding and leaving this conversation to private sector. There is a big private sector play in education. If I was to dare ask how many people know someone in private school, I think everyone would say me, I know. Why are we not actually asking that critical question, whereby what play do private entities have in the conversation around education? Because if you do strangle the education sector, which is provided by the government, which is provided by the system, then you open up an opportunity for private schools. And that is a critical conversation, a very dicey one, I know, because we appreciate the role that private education has. But we also see that there is some laxity in creating a well-founded public sector education system, because again, there is the private sector playing its part. So we need to have these delicate conversations. For me, the critical thing is ensuring that we can actually sustain the models that existed to ensure that children can go through school. Another critical aspect is the fact that we need some semblance of predictability. I think we have also seen that too much change too unpredictably can actually disorient and disorganize the entire system.
Yes.
So governments need to really come together and actually make the education system predictable. I should know that after grade 8, I'm going to grade 9 or so and so. I will go to university for 6 years or 5 years. It should not change midway through the courses, because that's what we have seen. We saw the hue and cry around junior secondary, whereby schools were constructing almost literally overnight to ensure that they can meet the demand.
Yes.
It shouldn't be the case. These things should have been rolled out either 4 years early so that schools can prepare, schools can ask for the right resources to be able to plan ahead. So I think also government is failing its students and its children by also rolling out policies and laws and legislation that are not really thought through in terms of also giving a plan of action for those who will implement them. I rest my case there.
Thank you, Julie, for that insight. Now, nataka nichukue break fupi, but kabla nichukue break fupi, naomba unaipatie, kuna reaction hapa hivi, na hii reaction inafaa kwenda kwa mheshimiwa mwelekezi wangu. Nachukua break fupi, lakini kabla nipatie dakika mbili, please already iende kwa rafiki yangu mheshimiwa Maina Motiga. Where is this question? Okay, kuna swali ambalo linaulizwa watu hapa hivi. Wakati tunazungumzia katika sekta ya elimu na capitation, na tumeona nikana kwamba for the last 3 years since the president, and I'm not fighting the president, I'm just saying what I have observed. Na pia SMS ambazo napata, people are saying that kumekuwa na drawback. Instead of marching forward, it's like we are drawing back from where we are marching back where we are coming from.
Ukiangalia
let me pose my question.
Ukiangalia Bwana Evans,
let me pose my question. Somebody anauliza, if you go to Kenya Kwanza manifesto, I don't know whether as a UDA, sababu ulichaguliwa na chama cha UDA, I don't know whether you remember manifesto ama ahadi ambayo mlipatia wa Kenya ya kwamba wakati Azimio walikuja na manifesto yao, nianze from juu, akasema wao wataendeleza masomo ya bila malipo katika shule za vyuo vikuu. Nao Kenya Kwanza wakasema ya kwamba watapeana scholarship. So that's if you go to Kenya Kwanza manifesto, wanasema ni scholarship. Free primary education, free secondary education, ikifika university scholarship. So now somebody anauliza, if we go to Kenya Kwanza manifesto, maybe how is your feeling that even the little that was there has been destroyed?
Okay, ukiangalia pande ya masomo Bwana Evans,
2 minutes.
Ndio, ukiangalia pande ya masomo 2002 to 2003 ndio masomo ya bure ilianza ya shule za primary.
Ya bila malipo.
Na free secondary, day secondary school, almost free. Lakini capitation by then was 24,000 per child. Up to maybe juzi. Lakini imeteremka from 24,000 to 12,000. Inamaanisha aje? Ikiwa 12,000 inamaanisha wazazi wataanza kurudi kwa mfuko kulipia mambo zingine ya watoto. Hiyo inamaanisha aje? Kuna uwezekano kuna kizazi hakitapata masomo. Sababu ya nini? Mama mboga, mtoto ya watchman, wale watu hawana kazi. Watoto watasoma kweli? Ikiwa itabiwa rudi kwa mfuko, na unakuta mwingine anaambiwa rudi kwa mfuko alipe shule ama afanye jambo fulani kwa shule juu ile 24,000 ilikuwa capitation, ilikuwa inatosha kila kitu. Sasa imekatwa to 50% up to 12,000. Inamaanisha shida imeingia. Lakini sijui tutafanya aje juu hii jambo hatuko tunatarajia. Vile vile ukija mambo ya masomo ya chuo kikuu, vyuo vikuu, imetokea na shida. Belani kulikuwa na help imetoka. Sasa ile nyingine imekuja ni kujaribu kuona maana inafanya kazi. Hatujui na in modules juu what nini unakuta juu mpaka module 1 juu mpaka module 5. Unakuta yule mtoto wa maskini kabisa anapewa hiyo module ile haipatiki, haiwezi pata hata nduru. So sijui tutafanya aje juu nini hapo. Ndio mimi nasema kuna shida kwa pande yote, especially kwa advisors wa viongozi wakuu.
Okay, now maybe sitauliza dakika moja, maybe utakuja kujibu tukitoka break, nisichukue dakika nyingine ya mwelekezi wangu, but ningetaka pia kujua mwananchi ndiye anasema sasa, anauliza atafanyaje. So wewe as a representative of people, naye pia unauliza utafanyaje. Na whereas I believe kuna ile tunaita county forum, kuna ile forum ya county zote mnakuwa na your leadership. Maybe don't you feel as a county, sababu Wachola alisema ya kwamba even counties they have role to play at a national level. The county forum ikuja na pendekezo yake, this is what all 47 tunasema, utakuja kujibu hiyo. Lakini ikienda break, basi if that's how things are, mimi kama Kibe naweza nikasema ya kwamba ile gift the former president Kibaki alipatia Mkenya ya free education imeenda. The subsidy education ambayo Rais Uhuru Kenyatta alipatia Wakenya imeenda. So ni mimi nimesema, si GBS TV imesema, like everything.
My name is Tracy Otonde. I'm Miss County Nairobi, and I'm also Miss Embakasi East. Modeling is an art by virtue of the model and by virtue of the designers. That's if we look at modeling in terms of pageantry, you're showcasing yourself. You yourself is a work of art. You're a work of art, and you're showcasing everything that's in you and within you. And by virtue of the designer is because you keep showcasing the attires that they're made for you, and you have to look the part for you to be able to showcase what the designer was picturing. So yeah, modeling is an art.
Hello kids! Today we are going to learn the story about Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Do you know of any other miracle that Jesus Christ did? Do you know which work Jesus Christ used to do? My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. 5 tiny barley loaves, 2 small fish in a little boy's lunchbox. Although it wasn't much, he gave it to Jesus.
Everywhere, GBS.
Laugh and we explode. Story about Chief Baker and the Chief Butler. When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on our way. While we do His good will, He abides with us still, and is all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way.
My name is Tracy Otonde. I'm Miss County Nairobi, and I'm also Miss Embakasi East. Modeling is an art by virtue of the model and by virtue of the designers. That's if we look at modeling in terms of pageantry, you're showcasing yourself. You yourself is a work of art. You're a work of art, and you're showcasing everything that's in you and within you. And by virtue of the designer is because you keep showcasing the attires that they're made for you, and you have to look the part for you to be able to showcase what the designer was picturing. So yeah, modeling is an art.
Hello kids! Today we are going to learn the story about Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Do you know of any other miracle that Jesus Christ did? Do you know which work Jesus Christ used to do? My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. He loves 2 small fish in a little boy's lunchbox. Although it wasn't much, he gave it to Jesus.
But what is the problem? The problem, people don't want to hear the voice of Jesus, and they don't want to live through the voice of Jesus. But most of the time, people are living their life of struggling. The people who died before receiving Jesus Christ, the people who died in sin, those people, they will go to the judgment, they will go to the fire, and those people will say that they are dead because they will face the second death, which is the hellfire. People without knowing this, people think that, no, I should do something. No, I need to do something. Why? Because they don't know exact heart of God. They don't know exact will of God. And through this, God allowed His goodness. God allowed the problems in our life. And when God allowed this goodness leads us to.
So today we are diving into a topic that has become rather popular right here in Kenya, the K-pop culture.
I would say K-pop invokes creativity, like mega creativity. I have friends who are creative and you see you've done that and they're like, yeah. An ex told me that K-pop girls, K-pop stan girls, was like,
the men you stand look like women, and you aim to get a man that looks like that. So if you fail to find a man like that, because obviously you're in Kenya, sisi ndo tuko, you're not going to find a pretty man.
For me, it's like I have two personalities at this point. I have my normal life and I have my army life. Because when I get into my army life, it's just like a whole new world. A community full of people who don't judge, people who accept you.
Learning Korean from a Kenyan can sometimes mess you up because they pronounce words differently, and when you speak to a native, it's like, hold up, what did you say?
I've never met like a K-pop fan. I don't know why.
What am I?
No, not when people want to like express themselves like I'm a K-pop fan. Unless you see them like wearing like a branded T-shirt or a branded hoodie, you'll realize that they are K-pop fans.
The main campaign of BTS is loving yourself, right? And K-pop has a lot of drawbacks. Just like anything else, too much of something is poisonous, yeah? And one of the drawbacks is it comes with beauty because they have these absurd beauty standards. While BTS passed this message that you're supposed to love yourself, embrace yourself, you're just perfect the way you are. You know, you don't have to eat less to be beautiful. You're beautiful from the inside, right? Get into BTS, it's hard to come out.
Okay.
Everywhere, GBS.
Karibu tena mtazamaji wangu wa GBS TV. Tunaingia ukurasa wa mwisho wa mazungumzo yetu asubuhi ya leo. Kumbuka hapa ndio tunasema kokoni unachanika. Karibuni tena mtazamaji wangu mahali popote ulipo, tuweze kuzungumzia swala hili. Nitakuwa nasoma majibu zenu baadaye nikimalizia. Welcome Maina, nilikuwa nimekukata ukiongea kabla tuende break fupi. So tunauliza gift ambayo Wakenya walipatiwa na Moi Kibaki, Mwenyezi Mungu iweke nafsi yake mahali pema.
Yes.
Mmeichukua. The gift ya subsidy ya education.
Hii shida ya capitation iliwachwa na Kibaki, na Kibaki ndio alileta free education. Na alileta kwa primary and day secondary school. Day secondary school ilikuwa nalipa around 9,000, 10,000. Kulikuwa na capitation ya 24,000. Sasa 24,000 ilikuwa capitation ya primary kila kitu. Imetolewa ikabaki 12,000. Inamaanisha aje? January kuna uwezekano wazazi wataanza kuitishwa kitu. Wakitishwa pesa wamekuwa kitishwa, lakini sasa unajua itakuwa ni lazima itolewe ili shule iendelee. Inamaanisha aje? Yule mtu mama wa kuvua nguo, mama wa kuuza watchmen na wale hawana kazi. Watoto wao walikuwa nasoma through capitation, na unapata mtoto akimaliza shule na kuwa mtu wa maana. Na kumbuka kuna mtoto mmoja nilisomesha na day secondary school from form 1 mpaka form 4. Baba alikuwa watchman, and I tell you, huyu kijana sasa ni mwalimu wa secondary school. Inamaanisha aje? Ile nafasi ikiondolewa ya wale watoto ya capitation ikitolewa, kuna watu watarudi kwa shida straight juu hawatasoma. Na usisahau mara nyingi mzazi wetu usomesha wakati wetu mzazi wetu usomesha mtoto wake ili amtoe kwa shida.
Na dakika moja sababu dakika zako zimeisha. Sasa
na ili na sio si tu
as a leader utakubali maybe at your capacity utakubali hii education ya
kuna shida nimetia kuna shida.
Nauliza maybe tukirejea next year sababu pia tumeambia kwamba huenda mzazi sasa itabidi agharimie.
Itabidi.
Sasa utakubali kama kiongozi?
No, hiyo si jambo la kufurahia.
Utakubali? Utakubali mzazi alipisha ama as a leader what will you do?
Unajua
ama kama county ya Kajiado mnaweza mkafanya nini?
Hatuna vile tunaweza fanya sababu hii ni mambo ya serikali kuu. Na primary yote ni za serikali kuu. Tutafanya nini?
Okay, asante.
Tutafanya nini?
Karibu. Welcome. Niko na swali hapo awali.
Ukiangalia hili swali la education na ukiangalia vile mheshimiwa amesema hii mambo ya capitation si jambo ya kufurahia. Na ukiangalia tena kwa makini kuna zile funds zenye zimekuwa. For instance ukiangalia kama CDF saizi tungekuwa mahali yenye tuna expect that CDF ingekuwa design in a way ina benefit watu. Lakini saizi vile tuko saizi CDF ina operate illegally. Okay? Na CDF pia inaenda against the principle of devolution. Because we are supposed to have two levels of governance. The national government and the county government. It means that when funds come from the national government, they should go to county government. But here we are in a scenario where the funds come from the national government, inaenda kwa county ya mtu mwenye anataka control. MPs wametengeneza CDF wanataka wa control. President mwenyewe akona kakiti yenye yeye pia anataka a control. Ukikuja kwa ward fund, kwa ward pia kuna kitu inaitwa ward fund. Hapa pia MCAs wanataka wa control. Women rep, I also think also have a certain kitty. Now, why don't we come up with a framework to consolidate all these funds into one fund, and whether top it up as part of the 15% that's money going to the counties, ama tuongeze kwa education. That's the only way we can be able to have a clear framework in terms of how do we support our children who are still going to school. Because the current framework is just causing confusion, where we have people who feel they must give from their hand to feel that people see what they are doing. And yet we need to have a system that works without Kibe or with Kibe. The system can be able to work. Because we don't want to work to have a system where the system only work when that person is there. What if the person is not there? Does it mean that the system will not work? And I think that's the challenge that we are having mostly with the CDF. The way it was designed, where it is only one person who sits at the parliament, makes the decision in terms of how much do we get, moves to parliament, goes to oversee the construction, knows who and who are the suppliers or contractors, and at the end of the day, again, is the person who is monitoring and evaluating the usefulness of how they have used the fund. And that's why you see every time the Auditor General raises questions around CDF, you will always see MPs coming out guns blazing, because they know that's the only place that cannot be touched. So we need to have a clear discussion and help people understand. And one thing we have failed to do as, let's say, the civil society, is that we have gone to court, we have been able to make sure that CDF will cease to operation come next year, May. But the question is, you see the way politicians turn the discussion. Because now they set up with the citizens. The citizens now feel we don't want them to get education. But when you look at it objectively, you will realize that what we are trying to argue is that there needs to be a clear framework. If the money leaves Parliament, or if the money after the budget allocation, who should be able to oversee this fund? Why can it go to county government if it's a must that we must have CDF instead of Parliament? Those are the challenges that we are having. So for me, I would suggest that we need to consolidate these funds and put it in a way, either the national government or the county government, so it has a clear structure and the framework that makes it easy for even citizens to observe it.
Okay. Yes. That more second, niulize so nimeuliza mheshimiwa. Now, as a civil society, maybe come January next year, if mzazi atabidi agharamike kulipa hiyo gharama ya elimu, so as an organization, what will be your move?
I think for us is first to challenge. We as TISA, which also convinced the Co-Uchumi campaign, we believe that as a country we don't have a revenue problem. If we can be able to put our house in order, we don't have a revenue problem. Because if you look at, you do analysis of our revenue that we collect each and every year, the revenue keeps on growing. Right now, every year when we do budgeting, after 3 months, we always have something called supplementary budget, where we see if you're not able to meet the target in terms of revenue, we see which sectors to cut. I can assure you the sectors that are usually the primary cut are health and education, and then social protection. So you see that they will never cut the expenditure, the recurrent expenditure at the office of the president. They will never touch. Remember that allocation to build church. They will never cut it, okay? They will come back to cutting the budgets for education, for health. So what we need to do as a civil society is to continue raising this, the information that citizens must be able to know and speak for themselves. And we also must also partner with organizations that are responsible in terms of public litigation, so that we can be able to stop these processes to ensure that our children get the benefits that they deserve. Yes.
Thank you. Julie, right to education is one of the human right demand. So, and I understand as an organization, you also deal with the issues of human right violations. So kumaliza education, I can interpret it as one of the violation of human right kwa watoto. So which will be your stand? What will be your move next year?
I don't think necessarily next year, because everything is evolving in the current space, so it could even be this year. The conversation that we are having right now is showcasing the challenges that we are facing in the in the education sector. And indeed, if there are public interest litigations that ought to be filed to challenge certain policies and practice, they will be filed. But just to chime in on what my colleague has said in regards to the discourse on whether or not the CDF and the other funds that are held by various members of parliament and senate that ideally ought not to be held, it's a big conversation. And something that we have noticed is that potentially our drawback as civil society is that we're not taking the citizens with us in our conversation and in our discussion and in what we hope to do. The premise of this is that there are two systems of government. There's the national government and there's the county government. And in regards to systems and processes that are devolved, then the key entities that ought to take leadership on this is the county governments. But we see a conflusion of issues whereby you have particular funds that are being managed by members of parliament who sit in county governments, because members of parliament are representatives of constituencies which sit in counties, doing almost a similar mandate to that of the county government. And that is the confusion that we hoped to unbundle with the litigation that we took to court. We are not saying that people do not deserve elevation from their current economic constraints through bursary. That is not the narrative we are pushing. We're actually saying that let's consolidate these funds so that it is easy to also audit and account for these funds. We should be able to say that in Nairobi County, we have all the funds consolidated, we have $1 billion. And this is how $1 billion has been used in education. And it's very easy also for the Auditor General to document and to see the gaps and to see the challenges. But then the other bigger conversation that we should be having is, are we addressing an issue that we have not yet tackled in terms of unbundling it? Do we actually have the right needs assessment of the education sector to warrant the responses of the policyholders in the education sector? I sometimes struggle to understand why we have teachers who ought to have been transitioned into permanent and pensionable employment and they are not being transitioned. What exactly is the challenge there? We haven't seen a clear articulation of the various challenges that exist in transitioning the JSS teachers because we need them. So I think also from a policy and legal standpoint, we need direction in terms of government telling the citizens, because we have a right to information under Article 35. We have a right to know why exactly we have certain processes that are held in abeyance for so long. What is wrong? But at the same time, I think it's important for citizens to continue to be vigilant and also to demand to understand the processes within their spaces. What is happening in terms of bursary? How much did your member of parliament get? Because unfortunately, until the position on the Supreme Court is then really implemented, we still have bursaries still being dispensed at the various members of parliament and also the other fund holders. How much did you get? Is there any citizen who actually asks those questions? How much did you get, Mheshimiwa? How much have you given? How have you tracked that it was given for the right people, for the right purpose?
Yes.
Is it paid to the schools or paid to individuals? Why? And I think once we get those systems in order, then we'll be able at least to get to the very end, which is a cohesive, predictable, coherent education system. Because as I said in the previous in the previous section of our conversation, if you think about the most vulnerable, these are the children. Would I say that it's a human rights violation? Maybe not. But are we abusing the rights of the child? Potentially, by us not being very careful about how we are managing the education sector. Yes.
Thank you very much. Na sasa nataka tuingie kigezo kingine cha mazungumzo yetu siku ya leo, na anayenifungulia awamu hii ya the principles of leadership, yani ni Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Kama uko tayari, but before that nilete ama nifungue ukurasa huu niulize. Tumekuwa tukiona most of time wakati tunazungumza kuhusu principles of leadership, Ni kiongozi ambaye chochote ambacho anaahidi lazima atekeleze. Ni kiongozi ambaye kwanza kabla afike kwa uongozi alifika sababu maadili yake imeafikia kiwango hitajika. Amepitia through chapter 6 of chapter 6 of Kenyan Constitution. Is it chapter 10 pia?
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6. What about the principles of leadership?
Article 10.
Article 10. Yeah,
values.
Yeah, the values. Hiyo ni kuwa natafuta. So kuna watu wamekuwa wakilalamika, sijui kama wewe Julie umeona mkiwa na mheshimiwa na Ocholo wanasema kwamba we have a kind of executive which promise but don't honor. So I don't know whether that is under the value of 2010 of chapter 10, article 10 of Kenya Constitution. Tumekuwa tukiona president anafungua barabara, wakati anafungua barabara kila kitu kwa pale, contractor kwa pale, lakini akitoka inamfuata. So nimekuwa nikijaribu kudemystify, is it true ya kwamba a leader of such caliber, that office, anaweza ahidi watu na ni kweli watu wameona kuna matinga, kuna excavators, akitoka maybe iondolewe. Nataka nisikie Mheshimiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka anasemaje baada ya rais kutembea Ukambani 3-day tour ya maendeleo. Tusikie Kalonzo.
Kitu inasema Ruto amelaunch hii barabara Wednesday tarehe 12. Leo ni Friday tarehe 14. Siku mbili baadaye hapa magreda yalikuwa yamewekwa hapa kuonyesha rais ana launch barabara ya kutoka Emali kwenda Matiliku 20 kilometers. Siku mbili baadaye hakuna evidence except this monument. This is just a monument. So this is not how to run a country. People expected by now matingatinga ingekuwa inaendelea na hii kazi. This is actually shameful. Yeah.
Somebody aliniambia kwamba Kibe uwezi ukatumia jina hewani ati president anadanganya. Somebody aliniambia fadhali unasema kwamba president ame-mislead. So Wachola nianze na wewe. So Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, na I think uko Kipipiri, I think that's Nyandarua County. There was a leader there, Methu and other leaders there kina Wanjiku Moya. Wanasema ya kwamba kuna barabara imelaunchiwa mara 3. Rais anaenda anapanda juu ya gari anaambia wananchi ndio hii, wanapiga makofi wanashangilia hii barabara tunajengewa. But akitoka the next day anatoka na contractor anatoka na, so imefika mahali Kalonzo was at that level of caliber ya Kalonzo. Sasa ameenda kuona kama ni ukweli na akaona ni kweli. President was there on the 12th na matinga na contractor, alafu 2 days on 14th nothing ilikuwa pale. So karibu.
Sijui kama muuliza swali au state tu nijibu. Wacha tuiangalie hivi. We see what is happening today or what happened in Ukambani did not start yesterday. It is something that started a long time ago. And I can take you back to the Uhuru Ruto regime, particularly in 2017. This was the order of the day where you could see they were showing up, making significant promises around construction of roads, construction of stadiums, but we never paid attention. And so you should be convinced that for someone to have that should I say the energy or that bravery to do it, quite often tell you that it has become a habit. Okay?
Yes.
Because for a leader to do that, and also in other parts of the country, tell that those are things that they didn't start yesterday.
Yes.
These things, they were there. We saw them. The election came. Citizens had a choice to choose who do they want to lead. But they chose the same person whom they knew very well used to do these things and is still doing them. So perhaps my point would be to go back to the citizens. They are seeing what's happening. They are not seeing it for the first time. What choice do they have come 2027? Because right now I don't think we have much, but we have a lot. We have a lot of stakes when it comes to 2027. So the citizens can speak and make a bold decision. The question is, will they take a similar route, or they will continue with the same route that they're having right now? That's number one. Number two, I think we also have to be honest, and that's one of the principles of leadership. with our leaders.
Yes.
That were it not for the struggles within themselves in the government, they will not be speaking right now. And most of our leaders only speak when power is not within them. When they are within when they share power or enjoy the benefits of that power, they don't speak. And that's the challenge that perhaps I personally am having with our leaders. Were it not that the likes of Methu are not in government, right now they will not be speaking. And how do we ensure that these things does not become, you only speak when you are outside, but you don't speak when you are inside. And it must come back to now, we elect honest leaders. When we elect honest leaders, it means that they will speak, whether inside or outside government. And I'm happy that Kalonzo has taken that energy. What is it Morara Kibaso used to do?
Yes.
And they threatened him.
And what happened to him?
Okay. I'm not in a position to say what happened to him. But I'm happy. But I'm happy that yes, I'm happy that now our leaders are taking the same approach that people have been doing, the citizens have been doing, to go and do that themselves. And I hope they don't stop. Yes.
Thank you. Mwelekezi wangu kama uko tayari, kabla nimlete mheshimiwa, na I think kwa heshima kuu nitaomba GBS TV wanitafutie Biblia. Sasa nikiwa na kiongozi anakuja na hapa maneno ambayo nitasema hapa ni ukweli. Sababu tungetaka tuulize mheshimiwa kama yeye amewahi na kwa ground ukaahidi mradi kwa mwananchi at ward level alafu kakoza kutimiza. But before that tunazungumza kuhusu the principles of leadership. Mwelekezi wangu nataka unipeleke kule mbele. Wanasema ya kwamba mikahawa imefunguliwa, wakati wengine wanapatiwa 1000, wengine wanapatiwa 500, wengine wanapatiwa 200. Kuna wengine ambao wanapatiwa spinach pia na sukuma. Can we go to bed? For heaven's sake, mheshimiwa, we are talking about principles of leadership. Dennis Itumbi work
an economist
at State House. Mahali rais yako. Kweli kabisa, the best thing chakula ambayo angepatia wakaazi au worth
ni sukuma.
Ni sukuma.
Mimi naweza sema,
what is the principle of leadership?
Hebu kwanza tuelewane. Itumbi ni economist. She is not a leader but an economist. Kiongozi angefanya hivyo. Kiongozi angefanya hivyo, angepatia wale watu kitu ya kwanza mashini za kulima, wapatie mbegu, wapatie fertilizer, hata hiyo sukuma. And within a gap of 3 months wao wameshiba wote na wapata hata ya kuuza. Lakini sasa wanapewa sukuma na unga ya dakika hiyo. Kwa hivyo kesho wakufe na njaa. Ni makosa. Kiongozi yote lazima afikirie baada ya kufanya ile jambo, pelekea mashini za kulima. Kwani Burkina Faso wanafanya aje na wamechinji nchi imekuwa nchi nzuri? By the way, ukiangalia ukifuata mambo ya Traore, unaona nchi inaweza geusha ni nchi ya maana na watu wote wawe busy. Sasa baada ya kufanya watu kuwa busy, unawafanya kuwa lazy. Ndio unawapelekea sukuma, unawapelekea unga ya siku hiyo. Na kesho watakula nini? Wakati utakuwa kwa watakula nini? Inamaanisha ni kama upewa tu chakula juu. Tena sijaifika hapo. Sijaiona hivyo tena. Hii ndio ya kwanza kuona sukuma ikipeanwa. Pesa ndio upeanwa, si sukuma. Inamaanisha tumeenda zaidi kama wanasiasa, tumeenda zaidi. Lakini ikiwa hiyo ndio advice nani wanayo, Itumbi ako chini. Ako chini kweli. Ya Itumbi ako chini. Ikiwa anapeana sukuma baada ya kupeana akili, baada ya kupeana fertilizer seeds, kama ni mwingine angeenda mashine za kulima na fertilizer na seeds na sprinklers, watu kulima hiyo ni sawa. Kutoka hapo lakini sukuma kitumbi umeenda chini sana bwana. Hebu soma vizuri ufahamu vile nafanya, sababu ni kama vile nafanya.
Okay, nilikuwa nimesema pia utatuambia naona chake wakinua mkono. Wacha nimalize na mheshimiwa kwanza na kuja. Mheshimiwa, nilikuwa nimesema tunaweza kuwa tunaona rais ndiye tu ana launch miradi ya kienda at award level. Na tuambie ukweli. Mimi umewahi launch miradi ambayo haijatamatika.
Wacha nikwambie ndugu yangu. Nimechaguliwa mara 3. Mara ngapi? 3. Na mara ya kwanza nilichaguliwa 2002 mpaka 2013. 2002 tamu ya kwanza nilijenga sekondari ngapi?
2.
Tamu ya kwanza nikachange Islam to a nested. Tamu ya kwanza. Tamu ya pili nikaweka mataa. Nikasema sasa niende bunge. Kwa bahati mbaya ama kwa vile kulienda, nikawa former president Uhuru alikuwa ataka gavana mwingine na mimi nilikuwa nataka mwingine, tukapitana. Kutoka hapo 2013 nilipoondokea, walikuja wenyewe wakaniambia sasa kuja tukae chini, hata si kutoa hata posta. Hapana. Wanajua nikisema kazi ni kazi. Okay. Kunaweza kuwa na hitilafu 1, 2, 3, lakini lazima tuache legacy kwa kila jambo. Na nikwambie, chunguza uone ama
umezidua mradi ambao na hivi sasa umekwama. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa swali. Nimejenga ile nilikuwa ile muhimu na nikasema nimefanya. Kuna ile iko na maji. Tumeweka maji, inaitwa Kitogota, tumeweka maji, tumeweka solar, tumefanya nini, tumefence. Watu walikuwa wanaenda kilomita 3 kupata maji. Sasa kila mtu akona maji kwa ile yule hajafikiwa ni kama maybe 10% na pipes zinawekwa. Okay, in other words watuambia wewe kabla ulaunch mradi wowote una make sure kuna pesa.
Yes.
Yes. Tumekuwa tukiona delay construction, delay completion of the project. Hiyo ni ya siku nyingine. Ochola, kabla nikuje kwa Julie, pole nimekukata, muda wangu unakimbia. Nilikuwa naona ukiinua mkono. Karibu.
Yes, nilikuwa nataka kurespond to mheshimiwa nimwambie. There are people within their circles that usually take charge of their mandate whenever they go to the ground. These people don't act without their blessings. And I'm 100% convinced that Itumbi did not act without the blessings of those he worked for. I am convinced that. Number 2, just wait. Number 2 is the dignity. Our constitution is very clear in terms of how do we ensure dignity. How do we treat each other with dignity? What you've seen there is not dignity. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mimi nataka jibu kabla ningesema Itumbi
naomba usiaddress yeye, ni address.
Mimi address bwana hivyo.
That's second.
Mimi naona hii ilikuwa fikira ya Itumbi. Nafikiri ya Itumbi nimwambia aenda achukue pesa pale fulani, anunue sukuma gunia kadhaa, aende agawie watu matawi kadhaa. Si president mwambie enda nunua sukuma, pelekea watu, beba sukuma na gunia, pelekea. Hapana. Hii ilikuwa fikira yake. Na inamaanisha aje? Ilikuwa yeye ndio advisor, tuna kasoro.
Maybe president alikwambia hajatuma Itumbi.
No, hajaniambia, lakini si unaona ile kwani president mzima kabisa aliye na degree ya doctorate anaambia mtu enda chukua gunia ya sukuma pelekea watu? Haiwezekani, sio yeye, hiyo ni Itumbi peke yake.
Hiyo ni we also thought that atukisema president ametuma Itumbi. We only say the masters. Unless you know the master of Itumbi, as we don't know.
Allow me sasa nikuje. Don't address my friend. Muaddress kupitia mimi. So na hiyo hapo tumetoka, stauliza hiyo swali tena. Karibu Julie. Julie, nilipoleta hiyo video niliona kana kwamba emotion yako imechange.
Karibu Ali.
Do you feel ya kwamba wamama wako kuna vinye kuna vinye mama, the dignity ya mama kama anavyosema. Sababu si kuona wazee pale. Wengine wa mama walikuwa pale. Sometimes we take advantage of women. Angalia hata tukienda kwa siasa ambazo zinakuja, tutaanza kuona itakuwa kanga za kisiasa. The only thing they can get ni hizo kanga zimechorwa picha za kiongozi. So principles of leadership. First of all, tell us as a lady, as a woman in this country, how is your feeling ukiona mama wakipangishwa line wapatiwe sukuma?
I think it's a very worrying thing when you see that, and when you see it being openly broadcasted on significant news channels, that this is what the leadership has reduced people to. When you talk about values of the Constitution, values of the people of Kenya, values of leadership, leaders in general, I do not think that is a demonstration of proper leadership. We might not be in a position to speak about the concerns of the people at that moment. Indeed, there could be a need that that particular token will address. We all do not know what was happening in that particular context, and maybe some context would have been quite good to allow us to react more authoritatively. But I think what Heshimiwa said is very true. You cannot give finished product. This is not empowerment. That is a token, that is bribery, that is wrong. You should empower these people to be able to provide for themselves and provide for families. Part of the importance of really reflecting on the Constitution is that it actually speaks quite progressively on who a leader should be. A leader should be accountable to the people. A leader should be responsive to the people. They should listen to the people. We saw that demonstrated quite efficiently on June 25th, 2024. When the leaders failed to listen,
Yes.
we made them listen. We did not bat two eyes about it. They failed to listen, and they said that this law will be passed without an edit or a comma. And indeed, the law was not passed.
Yes.
I would have to also say that they found their way to sneak in a few of the provisions of the Finance Act 2024 into now the Finance Act 2025, but also other legislations therein. But indeed, there was that moment that you need to be a responsive person. You need to listen to the people. A leader needs to listen. A leader needs to have integrity. I should be able to say, I only have this cup, and if you don't take this cup, I have no other cup. You should not say, I have 10 cups and deliver no cup. We have a challenge where leaders are not able to say no. Where leaders are not able to actually say that this is my mandate and this is the end of my mandate. Everyone wants to be seen to be doing everything and anything. But you don't have the resources, you don't have the support, and you don't have the capability. You need to be able to say that this is what I can do now, and be okay with that. You need to be also be able to say that we have launched 5 roads. Unless I get an audit of the 5 roads we have launched, I will not proceed to launch another road. That is integrity. That's living by the values of the Constitution. We often do not see our leadership championing for transparency. Transparency of processes, transparency of procurement, transparency of people who have been appointed to their offices. And we see that that is a big challenge to date. Because as a leader, the first thing that I would imagine I would say is, does my office represent the face of Kenya? Tying into nepotism and culture, nepotism, tribalism, and unity of the country. We have heard and we have seen time and time again that certain places only have a certain community there. That is not ethical leadership. That is wrong. We have also seen that certain places, women, persons with disability, marginalized communities, do not have a footing in those places. Again, that is wrong leadership. That is not good governance. So those are some of the ethics around leadership. Those are some of the fundamental tenets around ethical leadership. What I have seen there is something devoid of human rights and human dignity. How are you treating your community? The fact that you can actually stand as a leader and decide to dish out goods in open, and we will see this in elections. We have struggled quite a bit with the fundamental law in our country, which is the Election Offences Act, which actually speaks to the question of bribery, inducement, manipulation. And one would argue that whereas we have not officially declared the campaign season open, we are seeing tentacles of campaigning happening across the country. And we are seeing such things. The various empowerment forums that have been called, they call them empowerment programs hosted at either State House or the Vice President's quarters, Deputy President's quarters.
Yes.
What is that really? How do you have an office that has no mandate to give people certain things, giving people bicycles, wheelbarrows, transformers, not transformers, sorry, what are these called?
Borders.
Borders, generators. Yes, I was looking for the word generators, not transformers. KPLC, don't come for me. You find that this is very disorganized, but it's systemic disorganization. This is very deliberate. This is inducement and tokenism. This is bribery in its own self. Because we don't operate in a vacuum as human rights organizations where we say that people do not have problems. We appreciate people have problems. We do. But there is supposed to be a system that addresses those problems. There's supposed to be a deliberate plan by government that all of us agree to, that if you need this, this is where you go. This is the forms you fill out. This is how you get that boda so that you can be able to conduct your business. We know you have it, but the way things are being done right now, it is not right in terms of leadership. So those are my feelings towards the video that we have seen. A lot of reflection needs to be done by the people of Kenya. For those of you who ascribe to that kind of politics, I think it's time we rechange. We cannot have this same thing playing out time and time again. Since the beginning of time, it's the Lesos, it's the Unga, it's the Sukuma now. We need to see politicians for what they are, that is a token and that is a bribe. And we should demand better. We should demand for supplies for our farms. We should demand for opportunities of employment. We should demand for opportunities of self-employment, as opposed to being swept away by the wave, as this is.
Thank you very, Julie. Again, that's a discussion that I will have on and on, maybe especially between after December, because we are going to election and we must have these programs. So we'll continue engaging you on the same. Now, I want to also to take from where you have left in your opening statement about your feeling ya what tumeona Itumbi akifanya pale. Umesema ya kwamba it might be the abuse, lack of dignity kwa viongozi. Na ukiangalia kwa wale ambao umetufuata kuanzia mwanzo mahali tumefika, we are being raised in an issue ambazo zimefanya mwananchi ya feel agitated to the point ameenda kwa maandamano. Umetaja about June 24, ambayo it was as a result of public agitation of raising their issues. No one is responding. The government haiwasikizi. Some of them end up kukamatwa na wengine kufungiwa. Unfortunately, Julie, you understand there are people who have been charged with treason. I think ilikuja juzi kidogo. So sometimes if I look the constitution, even if I may not be interpret the constitution, maybe kulingana na understanding yangu, treason might end up to death penalty. Ama ni death penalty na?
It's death penalty.
Yeah, death penalty. I would wish maybe for 20 minutes maybe tutuzungumzia haya. I think tujaribu kutumia dakika mbili. With our current constitution ambayo tuko nayo, can we pronounce death penalty to anybody?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the death penalty. It's something that I am very passionate about, as well as the Kenya section of the International Commission of Jurists. We have been moving a project on the abolition of the death penalty for quite a while now. I think we have been doing this for over 30 years. And for us, we come from we come from an understanding that the death penalty protects no one. The death penalty is cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment, and actually akin to torture. And the death penalty has the ultimate cause of taking away life. So the right to life is actually stripped away by the very existence of the death penalty and the pronouncement of the death penalty there. If you look at the colonial history around the death penalty was used to actually put people in their place and put in measures that would ensure that the highest level of penalty is given for an action. Currently in our penal provisions, we have 3 big ones that attract the death penalty: murder, robbery with violence, and treason. In terms of murder, Kenyans are fully aware, because I think this particular case is very popular, about Jumatatu. So the Jumatatu decision by the Supreme Court clarified that you do not get a mandatory death penalty for the offense of murder. However, that means that it is still an option. It's just not a mandatory death penalty. Because the wording of section 204 and 205 of the penal provision was actually that if you commit murder and you are found guilty of murder, then the sentence for the offense of murder is death. So the Supreme Court interpreted that in the sense that it is not mandatory for the judicial officer presiding over the case to then issue the death penalty. Why? Because there could be mitigating circumstances that could therefore warrant the murder, unfortunately. So it could have been that there was self-defense, intoxication, various offenses, various underlying circumstances, but you see also that could fall into the realm of manslaughter. So someone can actually look at the situation around that offense and then deem that you don't deserve the death penalty. Case in point is a lady called Agatha Nonga. It was a case that was decided quite a while back, whereby she had been repeatedly abused by her husband over a long period of time. She had reported to the chief, she had reported to the police, and because of the system and how it is, she often was told, go back home. When she went to her family, she was told, just go back home. Resolve things with your partner. And on a particular night after an incident with her husband in the previous days, she woke up and actually saw that it's either my life or his life. So she took an axe and she killed him. She proceeded to hide the axe, but because of the nature of the offense, eventually someone followed her up and then she was found to have been the one who committed the act of murder. But the court looked at the systemic injustice by the entire system that had been meted out against her. She had reported, she had asked for help, she had been able to articulate her concerns about her safety and her family's safety to the right authorities, and nothing had been happening. And he consistently used to violate her rights. She used to beat her, he used to be very aggressive. And to a point where she actually almost lost her life one time because of the violence he was meting out against her. So is this a person who deserves the death penalty? Because indeed what she did was murder. But looking at the circumstances of the case, was that warranted? So the court actually sentenced her to 1 day in prison, and that was the day that she was there in court, so asked for her immediate release. And this is one of the few cases that we spotlight because it shows that even with the Jumatatu decision, it gives back the discretion to the judicial officer. But that is only on the case of murder. Robbery with violence, which is a very common offense in our country, still carries the sentence of death. And robbery with violence is very dynamic. One, it could be actual violence, whereby we saw a spree of carjackings in the 1990s, whereby a lot of people used to get carjacked very violently. Either someone would be shot dead or beaten or something would happen, but it was a very violent attack that led to someone's deprivation of their property. But you see the elements of robbery with violence is, one, being in the possession of a violent weapon, and violent weapon could be very broad. Many people have pen knives. That is a very violent weapon. So in the event you commit a crime and your pen knife is found on you, it could actually constitute robbery with violence. Being in the company of 2 or more people. So if right now we were to deprive your cameraman of his camera, this would be considered robbery with violence by the virtue that we are more than 2. Yet we might actually just tell him, give us your camera, and then push him. Nothing excessive, we just push him, but it's construed as robbery with violence because we're in the company of more than 2. And we see that these are some of the offenses that lead to people being on death row. Well, treason is a bit dicey. Treason, by its very nature, is a bit dicey because, again, the levels are varied. Sharing state secrets, causing a mutiny. There are various elements of treason that are concerning. Trying to overrule the government of the day. We'll come to that in a bit because it's also very contentious as to what that actually amounts to. But again, these carry the death penalty. So the last executions were done in 1982 following the coup. It actually affected military personnel more. And that's the last we have seen of death penalty, but insofar as treason. As it stands right now, we have the death penalty. I was in committee some time back, and there are people on death row. Their dates in terms of when they will be executed are unknown because we have had a moratorium for, that is the failure to execute. Let me not use legalese words. A moratorium is the failure to execute and the government being cognizant of that and actually imposing it and stating to the world that Kenya is actually holding a moratorium, which means that we will not execute anyone for a period of time. However, that does not mean we cannot execute. One thing you need to know is that the gallows are still there within committee, they're still polished, they're still cleaned, and they're still serviced. We might not have a hangman, but unfortunately any person serving within the prison command can actually act as a hangman. So it is not far from us. It is not far that the death penalty is still within our constitution, is still within our laws, and can actually be done. The challenge that we see as ICJ Kenya and other human rights organizations working towards the abolishment of the death penalty is that its repercussions are dire. You will actually deprive life. But also it could be weaponized by authoritarian regimes that seek to quell dissent and seek power illegitimately. We have seen treason charges being imposed on young activists even in Tanzania right now. Someone who was doing TikTok dances is in for treason. And if you remember the phrasing, and I'm not saying this out of jest, if you remember the phrasing of the President of the Republic of Kenya on the day after the June 24th protests, he actually said that these were treasonous elements. Those are very scary words for the work I do, because technically if persons were prosecuted for treason under our laws as they currently are, there would be a pronouncement on death for the death penalty. And there's nothing that actually stops the president from actually signing death warrants. There's nothing. So we have been stating that, one, it is important for us to abolish the death penalty because it's cruel, inhumane, a deprivation of the right to life, goes against every fundamental freedom that we believe in. But at the same time, we are also alive to too much power corrupts. We're also alive to the fact that a lot of African countries, even, we're not speaking about this in utopia, a lot of African countries have actually moved away from the death penalty. Zimbabwe moved away from the death penalty last year in December. Rwanda, our neighbor, does not have the death penalty, yet they went through one of the worst instances within their nation that could have warranted an imposition of the death penalty. So we have also seen African countries moving away from it to join other countries. I mean, in Europe, there is no death penalty, and yet some of the people who have committed the most atrocious crimes are actually not given death.
Okay.
Just to conclude, I know that many people often say that certain people warrant the death penalty, certain actions are horrible and should not be forgiven. But another perspective that very few people have is that sometimes even the victims' families do not want the death penalty. It's out of anger that everyone goes like, let's go for the gallows, let's go for the, the ultimate punishment. But sometimes it's not even closure for the victim's family because there is no closure to the loss of a dead person. So we have been looking at all these multifaceted issues in our campaign to abolish the death penalty, and we hope that eventually we will. Kenya just went for universal periodic review this year actually. Unfortunately did not agree to the discourse on abolishing the death penalty, so we still have a lot of work to do with our Attorney General. There is an international convention that Kenya is yet to sign on to, which is the second optional protocol on the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, which would actually say that whichever country signs on to this should not have the death penalty. But there's also a very significant push by the international community asking Kenya abolish the death penalty. So this would be a win for the Republic, a progressive move in the right direction by Kenya. So we hope that eventually we will be able to sit around a table and say we have worked together to abolish the death penalty in our country. Thank you.
Sorry, sir. Thank you, Julie. Ningetaka niende kwa Ochola the same. Ochola, the people that you train on members, on governors, understanding the constitution, sometimes there might be the one who might find themselves being charged with such charge because of the treason. I'm saying this because Kahawa Law Court, I think nikiangalia ilikuwa na almost 100 vijana ambao walikuwa nachajiwa na treason because of vandalization of government property kule Kikuyu. So is it something that should get our attention as organizations?
I think I cannot go further in terms of explaining beyond what Julia said, given that from her legal background and also her area of work. And for me, it is quite interesting that these issues usually come in when either we are during the protests or the protests after elections. And you will see all these things coming up without, should I say, due diligence or proper analysis. So I will not go further beyond what Julia said, but I think it is something that each and every organization, depending on their strength, for instance, right now, ICJ is leading that work. So I think for us as TISA, it is something that we will let to them lead, and if there's any other support that is needed, perhaps we can support. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mamaina Mutika 1992. Is it 1992? You are among the people ambao walifinywa kidogo.
Yes, wakati wa Sabasaba tulifinywa na in fact tulikuwa naenda koti moja na Koigi na I was a boy 20 years hivi. Na ningetaka kusema kweli mtu yule hajui kuteswa na serikali ni nini, ni shida kubwa sana. Juu umeenda kotini, wazazi hawajui, hakuna mtu yako anaruhusiwa kukuona, wewe ni kama muuaji. Na sababu tulishika tu sababu ya demonstration peke yake. Na okay, kwa kweli nilikuwa naongoza demonstration, lakini unaposhikwa kitu ya kwanza huwa kiongozi yote anashika watu sababu ya demonstration, huwa anaweka uoga kwa wengine wote. So na unaposikia treason, sasa hiyo ni tofauti, sababu ukisikia utashikwa na treason sababu ya demonstration, unajua hiyo inamaanisha wengine watu wanyamaze. So hiyo ni njia isiyo nzuri kwa nchi iliyo na uhuru wa kidemokrasia kama nchi tulio nayo. Ni vingumu sana ni vibaya sana, sababu unapoambia mtu utamstaki na treason sababu ya demonstration, si basi ni kama kumwambia ni sawa sana kumwambia ukidemonstrate takuua. Hiyo ni kama kusema hivi straight, treason ni kuua. Sasa hiyo ni njia isiyo nzuri, na niseme ni dictator usio mzuri. Isipokuwa rudi akaondoa, lakini hiyo ni dictator usio mzuri. Uliona Tanzania, juu ya kudemonstrate tu peke yake, mwingine anachukua nini, anaanza kuimba already anastakiwa na treason. Dunia mzima ikalalamika. Si ndio last week president akasema hiyo mambo yaangaliwe vizuri. Ninataka kusema hivi, kiongozi yoyote lazima afahamu una wakati wa kuongoza na kuna wakati utakuwa huko kwa uongo. Hata mimi, hata mbunge, hata governor, hata president, women reps, senator, wote kuna wakati hawatakuwa kwa uongo. Kwa mfano, sasa hivi tuko kwa uongozi wa awamu ya tano ya Rais Ruto. But come 2032, Ruto hatasimama president, sababu after 2027 ndivyo. Akifaulu 2032 hatasimama. Hivi inamaanisha atarudi nyumbani. Na akirudi nyumbani atakuwa kama Uhuru Kenyatta anajiangalia mambo. Itabidi tuwe tukijiuliza, baada ya siasa tutaenda wapi? Okay. Baada ya siasa tuna watoto, watakuwa wakiona waji. Baada ya siasa tuna familia, itakuwa ikiona waji. Hivi ndivyo uongozi. Kiongozi wetu anaruhusiwa kuangalia.
Okay, thank you. Maybe dakika moja tu ni kuongeze Mheshimiwa Maina.
Yes.
Watu wengi katika taifa letu la Kenya wanaamini ya kwamba some things unless they are being pushed politically. Sasa wewe mwenyewe na wakilishi wadi wengine wanne katika wadi yako, na Kajiado County niliona iko na 25 wards elected. Ukienda Nairobi iko na 85 wards. So if you go to Kiambu iko na 60.
Yes.
Don't you feel that there is need now to join, even if nyinyi mtaenda mahakamani, maybe to push this at your capacity? Because when I say hatutaki death penalty as a politician, there are many people who will borrow that.
Okay, hiyo tunaweza push kama viongozi, lakini ufahamu hivi, kiongozi wa mashinani akiongea haina uzito kama national leader. Fahamu hivi, mimi nikiongeza pale assembly kwetu itasimamia tu hapo. Lakini mbunge akiongea kwa national assembly inasika Kenya mzima. Inawekwa uzito. Senator akiongea inawekwa uzito. Nauliza, unaongojea waongee hiyo jambo?
Okay, sasa I think
si hawa ndio wanasema watu washikwe na wafungwe hata ikiwezekana nyongo kesho.
Nitafuta wabunge na senator pia.
We have few leaders who are ready to start with
so that we can hear their views.
Allow me to speak on that. We have been able to engage the Justice and the Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. And indeed, there are some progressive members of Parliament, some who actually agree, some who are persuaded by the data and information that they have gotten around the death penalty that it's time to consider abolition. But again, looking at the mood of the country, I think sometimes politicians want a little bit of self-preservation and the tools in their armory, one of them being, unfortunately, the use of the death penalty should it be necessary. So that is the unfortunate challenge. Another thing is, and you've mentioned that people are being charged with treason, others are being charged with terrorism. So terrorism does not carry the death penalty. However, it does carry very serious prison sentences. You're looking at 15 to 30 years. And if you're looking at 15 to 30 years of a young person's life, that is a very long period of time. And what are the elements that they're saying that constituted this terrorism? Being in a protest, speaking about your rights, moving towards a particular structure to agitate for those rights, moving towards parliament to agitate for those rights. We really need to have a conversation, and a deep conversation around public order management in this country. Because the issues that we're having here is a question of public order management, a question of using the wrong law to send a particular message, issues of using the Cyber Crimes and Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act to criminalize people who have opinions, who have dissenting opinions. And one thing I always say, a leader should be a tolerant leader. If you're a leader, you will not be liked 100%, and it's okay. Be able to confront that information with a certain level of magnanimity and come down to the people and say, where did I go wrong? Because they elected you to serve them. Do not criminalize them for their dissenting opinion. Do not punish them for having a different opinion to you. And do not put young people's lives at jeopardy because you want to stay in power longer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I want to give each 2 minutes so that nakumbuka nilipo waasha in asubuhi. Sikuwapatia nafasi ya kutuambia kama ni tisa mnafanya nini. So 2 minutes, tuambie what you do. Kwa mheshimiwa sijui pia utanisamea sababu kupatia mheshimiwa aseme manifesto yake in 2 minutes hapo ni kama umemdhulumu. So try to constrain in 2 minutes. Tuanze na Wanaochola. Tell us more about maybe tisa kwa dakika mbili.
Okay. Asante sana for this discussion. And as I said earlier that I work at TISA. TISA is a civil society organization that works on governance issues, and we aim to empower citizens so that they can have a voice to hold leaders accountable. And in our area of work, we believe in the principle of devolved governance. And I just want to also assure Kenyans that, or inform Kenyans that when we came with the devolution, our idea was to make sure that we devolve power so that no one person can be able to control every aspect of our governance. And that's something that I also want Mheshimiwa here, MCAs, to understand that at the county level, they also have power. That whenever they feel like there's a certain leader who speaks against the constitution, they should be able to speak and tell that leader that on this ground you are wrong. And this is the challenge that we are having as people, that when a certain leader speaks, as long as you are within that party, you will not speak because you feel you will not be able to get the ticket when it comes to the next election. So those are the challenges that we are trying to address. So as TISA, we work with people to give them a voice and agency to be able to engage in governances. And we have 2 areas of work: public accountability and the livelihood and just economies. When it comes to public accountability, we look at the issues of governance. How do we transform our governance to social economic transformation? Because we cannot be speaking of leadership when economically we are not doing well. How do we translate our leadership to economic transformation? So at the end of the day, our young people who are being rebranded or branded as terrorists or engaging in an act of violence with robbery, how do we support them so that in areas of work that they are doing, whether they're in digital economy, they're in creative economy, how do we help them to see what they're doing as also a career? So as TISA, we also stand for public right accountability. It's a challenge that we are facing right now. And we convened the Okoa Uchumi campaign, which we are using as a platform to advocate for good governance in the country.
Thank you, Ochola. So nikushukuru sana kwa kutupambia asubuhi ya leo. God bless you.
Asante.
Mheshimiwa, so I don't know whether in 2 minutes you choose to tell us what you'll do in the remaining 2 years, ama tuambie what you have done in 2 years, in the past 3 years. So maybe 2 minutes, yes. Please try.
Mimi na uhaki na inatarajia kwa mapenzi ya Mungu after 2027, after this period of 5 years, area yangu itabaki ikiwa na a mark that will remain there for a long time. Kwa mfano tumeanza kuweka barabara nyingi kabro. Na kuna barabara kama 10 tumepitisha ziwe na kabro this financial last this 25 to 26 and 26-27 kama 12 tumepitisha ziwe na kabro, na hii itakuwa njia moja ya kufanya area yetu change. Na haja kubwa ni tuone mwananchi wa kawaida amepewa services zilizo nzuri na mambo yote iwe sawa. Inamaanisha iwe sawaje? Uwe ukitoka kwa nyumba na slippers unaenda kwa matatu bila kupata matope, na hiyo ndio inawezekana. It is possible. Tukiweka hizo 10, nina uhaki itafanya area yetu iwe ya kipekee. Ombi langu ni, na si ombi langu, nataka tu watu wakija kule ku benchmark, and it is possible. Nilipomaliza tu mpaka 2013 watu walikuwa naenda ku benchmark kama kweli Kanjura wakaenda za Janga secondary, na tulifanya hivyo. So at this time around watakuja ku benchmark, that one I know, lazima wasiwasi.
Thank you Julie, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I thank you for having us. I work with the Kenya section of the International Commission of Jurists, that is ICJ Kenya. We are a member-based organization that has membership from persons with a legal background, be it lawyers, advocates, magistrates, judges, academicians, students, and practitioners of the law. We work to ensure that there's a just, inclusive, and free society where everyone lives in dignity and can ascribe to their fundamental human rights that they are enshrined within the Constitution, but also under various international obligations. We work in Kenya, but we also work in Africa. So we have a regional focus in our work. We have 3 critical pillars that we work on, which is justice and democracy, access to justice, and economic justice. And the 3 pillars work around justice issues, spanning across various issues. We work on security sector reforms, justice strengthening, which is justice system strengthening. So hence why I talked quite a bit about our work with the Judiciary, Office of the Attorney General, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the DCI. We work towards strengthening these organizations because we believe that indeed the criminal justice sector and the justice sector has a fundamental role to play in strengthening and making sure that people's lives are with dignity. We have critical work that focuses on women and girls, sexual and gender-based violence. We have our fantastic work on criminal sector reform. We are looking at abolishing the death penalty. We are also working on decriminalization of petty offenses, decriminalizing poverty and status, which is a fantastic piece of work that we do, where it looks at, are there various laws that we inherited from our colonialists that are still here with us, that actually target you because of your various status? Are you poor? Are you vulnerable? Working with hawkers. So we work with different actors. Indeed, from our name, it looks like we only work with the justice sector, but we actually work with different actors. We go to the community, we work with paralegals, we work with academic institutions, we work with duty bearers, but we also have a very heavy focus on the ordinary mwananchi. We have been convening fantastic conversations with the people's assemblies of Kariobangi, Kiambu, in a bid to actually create civic awareness. And part of our focus as ICJ Kenya is ensuring that Kenyans understand their rights heading into the election 2027, but also we ensure that our country is stable in regards to various laws that need to be considered for amendment. So we are very active in the legal space. We do public interest litigation, research, training, advocacy, and capacity building. And if you're someone who's watching this and you're an advocate, please go to our website and join our membership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Niwashukuru wote, muda wangu umeisha kabisa, hata sitakuwa na parting shot. Niseme asante mwana GBS TV Jumatatu kwa kuwa mwaminifu. Naitwa Ivan Kibe. Kuna tena hewani ni majaliwa yake Mwenyezi Mungu. Bye bye.
Everywhere, GBS.